Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I'm going live about now. Just made sure that my iPad will not accidentally interrupt us by streaming myself as I do on the side to check the chat. Yes, I do now have my iPhone 17 Pro Max. I've now had it for over 24 hours, actually, 1.5 days. But given all the setup, of course, a night's of sleep for once and everything else, I've been using it for about a day and I am ready to give my own impressions. In fact, I will be doing so. I will be using actually other YouTubers who are doing like not so great work in some ways to give impressions of the new iPhone to compare it to other smartphones. I absolutely adore this thing. You can see that I'm actually keeping my tech woven blue case with the, of course, the blue iPhone 17 Pro Max. In fact, this is the first time that I'm actually using the default wallpaper for once because it has these gorgeous parallax effects. Now, if you're wondering if the screen is as reflective as it seems, yes, but that's not the screen's fault. The screen is in fact less reflective than it was on my 15 Pro Max, but I am using a protective cover glass. So we have Angelica and Rosa already joining the chat. Thank you guys so much. I apologize for the very short warning, like just 20 minutes or so before the stream actually started. But as I told you guys, I had plans yesterday, I had plans today. I went out, I took some comparison photos between this iPhone and my 15 Pro Max. However, I was too stupid to take them in the same photographic style. And while you can change photographic styles later on the iPhone 17 Pro Max as you could on the iPhone 16 Pro series, of course, you cannot do that on the 15 Pro Max that is tuned to rich and cool, which is also what I'll be tuning my iPhone 17 Pro Max later on. But you can go actually to my Discord. You will see the comparison photos over there. They will show the photos from the 17 Pro Max being much warmer than they are from the 15 Pro Max, but that's because of the tuning of photographic styles. I've checked it out afterwards. They are very similar in that regard. This phone primarily delivers benefit with the telephoto camera. However, lighting was so good today until it literally started pouring over me. So then I went back home. That it wasn't as big of a difference. The ultra wide camera is much higher resolution. You will see that even in good light, you will not get that much better low light cameras, but then again, I still haven't tested that much. And the main camera between the 15 Pro Max, 16 Pro Max, and 17 Pro Max is very similar. The main big difference is where you get that little eye here on top. If it weren't for the dynamic island paradigm that Apple has introduced, of course, which is that the front, the selfie camera, is miles better. It's sharper, it's more versatile, it's and to all that, it's actually wider field, which usually, if you check, for example, the center stage cameras on your iPads, they're worse than the cameras that came before, at least when it comes to just like capturing a full resolution face. On the Max, they're still better because obviously they went from like 2 megapixels to 12. But yeah, on the iPhone, 24 megapixel selfie camera, 18 megapixel of that being usable in the 4x3 form factor. You can hold it in portrait mode and still shoot landscape selfies. This is the first time that I'm actually like inclined to say that selfies are a game changer, and that's a way in which I would use selfies, with the sensor actually being decently large enough to capture enough resolution, enough detail. That way, even if you're like just a regular tourist, I would be inclined, and because it's such a wide image, I would just be inclined to capture myself in front of a landmark with the selfie camera. The other cameras have seen notable improvements, especially over my 15 Pro Max, the telephoto camera. I loved the 4X. You know what? I'm actually going to go into big mark mode here. I love the 4X camera here because the 5X has always zoomed in just a little too close. Again, if you go to the Discord, I actually captured a photo of some food I was eating today, and the problem was that the 5X actually had to move back like that. With the 4X, it was fine. I think 3.5X remains my favorite for high resolution, like non-zoomed in telephoto shots. But because it's 48 megapixels and everything, now the range between 4x and 6x, you get incredible photos. At every stage, they will actually be better than the 5x of the previous generation. So not only is it better, of course, at 4x, but it's actually better at 5x, it's better, and then, of course, anything that comes beyond. Pranav Nair saying, hello, Mark, which color for the Pro will be good in the longer run? I think the deep blue, but I'm concerned about picking up scratches. Silver looks cheap, at least in the pics. I have not seen yet the other models in real life, so I've picked deep blue. I honestly don't understand the ScratchGate stuff. We are going to be reacting to JerryRigEverything iPhone 17 Pro video, actually, that came out 3 hours ago. So, and I just noticed that an hour ago. That's why ScratchGate is in my title. I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to be covering this. I've used my iPhone completely normally without a case in the evening when I like I'm in my case today because I just put it next to me after I fell asleep after coming home. But I'll be using this caseless at home and I'll be using it with a case outdoors. So I'll let you know if it scratches for me. I mean, especially the plateau is kind of exposed, but no, I don't really understand, like iPhone 6, 6S, 7, like beyond the iPhone 7 Plus, 7 in jet black, like none of these devices scratched like left and right. Like I don't understand where this fear of aluminum suddenly came from. Like I've seen Android people whose high-end flagships have always used Android. There are a few exceptions like Samsung, Xiaomi who have recently adopted titanium. Beyond that, Vivo, Oppo, OnePlus, they all still use aluminum on the side rails. They will now like share this like extreme fear about the backside of the iPhone specifically, and even worse, and that specifically I'll just go to JerryRigEverything right away, right? I actually couldn't pre-download my videos today because I've logged into YouTube Premium on so many accounts. It started believing that like I'm on too many, even though I logged out of my 15 Pro Max already. So maybe it needs like 24 hours on the server or something like that. So sorry if there are any ads today or we'll need to do some buffering. That's because YouTube Premium is acting up. Because God forbid my tech works fine, right? I had my microphone issues last time. Now YouTube Premium is acting up. By the way, I fixed my mic issues. I was correct. The problem was the intermediary. The problem was the Ethernet adapter. That's also like a USB-C multi-port adapter. And I had my microphone plugged into that and then plugged into the iPhone. And I guess the connection of both Ethernet data and iPhone microphone data was too much for it. I have no idea. I always have my headphones actually plugged in through that. That has never worked poorly, so I assume this should be fine because I just replugged my microphone directly into my Mac. Thankfully, with the 3-meter cable, I didn't even need to move the microphone. So yeah, but when it comes to ScratchGate, look at this thumbnail, right? It doesn't even make sense because half of the scratches here are happening on glass. By that logic, like this is the same ceramic shield that's on the back of the iPhone Air. That's the same ceramic shield that's on the back of the iPhone 17. On the front, these devices have ceramic shield 2, so that's specifically a more screen-oriented solution that's now also updated to be more scratch-resistant and to offer low reflectivity. Those are things that are not necessary for the back, where you probably would want to protect it more from being shatterproof. This is insanity, and like iPhone ScratchGate is real. I hate Jerry now officially. Like I apologize. First of all, he did this bullshit thumbnail. He did not break it. We'll watch the video afterwards. But yes, Jerry is lying with the thumbnail. And I know thumbnails are for this kind of stuff. Like I know thumbnails are like designed to attract people. He's not lying in this video, at least. I have not actually gotten to watch his iPhone 17 Pro video. But ScratchGate is real is such a fucking dishonest title, because you can say that about literally every aluminum product on the market at this point. Like, yeah, if you're a moron who puts like his non-cased iPhone into like his bag with like keys and whatever, yeah, maybe, especially all the time, but like, especially then trying to analyze it for the glass, which again is the same solution as it is on the iPhone Air and the iPhone 17, which he did not declare ScratchGate for their backsides for some reason. I wonder why. I wonder if he just bought into this bullshit internet talking point, because that's how a lot of content media creation works at this point. So yes, I apologize for being super negative. I try to be critical, but I never try to like actually attack other YouTubers. But this is a situation where it's 100% warranted. Like, I love this device. Thus far, it seems to offer like roughly 40% more battery life than my to 85% degraded iPhone 15 Pro Max. That makes sense, because not only does it have larger battery, not only is its battery fresh, but it's objectively more efficient. The 5G connectivity is much stronger on this device, to the point where I'm getting connection where I would regularly either lose it on my 15 Pro Max, or it would get so weak that it was kind of functionally lost, because it took me so long to like load a web page or YouTube or whatever, that I might as well have had like a complete loss of connection, then it like regained full strength like 5 seconds later, because it was such a long delay, because the speed was so much worse. So this fixes that. In terms of Wi-Fi strength, it's definitely stronger too, but of course that's less of an issue. I do have a Wi-Fi repeater at home. Beyond that, like, everything else has worked completely fine for me. The only real software bug that I have had was in control center customization. Some icons would jump around uncontrollably. But yeah, we know that Apple has like this ongoing bug for years at this point, with home screen like customization and with control center customization, where sometimes like an icon will just jump into the completely wrong spot. You will have like a random empty spot, even though that's not what you were actually going for. So this is absolutely something that, for one, thankfully for the home screen, to me, has been fixed with iOS, I believe 18.4 or so, or 0.2. I don't actually remember that well. But with Control Center, that is a bug that seemingly is now back on my iPhone 17 Pro Max. It's not that back for me on my 15 Pro Max, but I acknowledge that it has never been perfect. And now that we've talked about my iPhone 17 Pro Max at least a little bit, let's see what Jerry has to say about how well the iPhone 17 Pro Max performs. One upside of not pre-downloading the video is that I can actually watch stuff in 1440p, and while that might not benefit you because this is a 1080p stream, at least I'll be able to better react to certain details that are going to be popping up on the screen.
User, I'm extremely jealous of how the iPhone 17 Pro is built. However,
I have no idea what that even means. Like, I mean, it's a nicely built device. It has like a vapor chamber that's directly integrated with the aluminum unibody. I like the plateau design. It actually makes it really comfy to put the finger right under it. I love that camera control is finally on one of my devices. I know some people hate it. I've even posted on my Discord my camera control settings. So I choose double click instead of a single click, so to not invoke it on accident. And I've disabled all the extra controls when it comes to zooming in and focusing, because honestly, I just want to use it as a shutter button. But beyond that, I just love that my action button is now working basically as a mute button, just as it worked in the days before the action button. I will probably configure it to some other shortcut, or maybe I'll just configure it actually to do not disturb directly, because I find that more useful than muting the device overall. Yeah, I love the build. I love how the aluminum feels in my hand. I've advocated for aluminum unibody devices for years. You guys know I've talked about how I believe the HTC One M7 M7 to M9 are some of the most beautiful phones ever. I love this design. I'm so glad that we're kind of back. Obviously, this is a less curvy device than the HTC One back in the day, but it's still much softer. Like the edges, the way that they're rounded, it feels much more comfortable than even on the titanium devices, and leagues ahead of how they felt on Apple stainless steel devices. I also love, of course, the fact that because it's anodized aluminum, you can go with these much brighter colors in the way that you really couldn't with titanium, at least not the way Apple was going with it. Similar to how it's also better than on stainless steel. I know some people will say, oh, the color is scratchable. I don't understand that, because the color was also scratchable on titanium. In fact, the titanium is very durable and very unbendable and even not so scratchable. I understand that, but not the actual color on top. The color did not like gain the durability properties of titanium. So if you think that ScratchGate is real on the 17 Pro, you must believe that it was real for basically every iPhone before it. In that case, it's then not a gate. It's just like a regular fact of life. But let's see what Jerry has to say. Playback speed 1.1 should be fine.
Got to do one really important thing. They ignored an international standard,
so this
and
is
it's
not
going to
the pre-watched
haunt
video. I just started the video up until here, just before the stream started. I have no idea what international standard he's talking about. I guess we'll check out, and I'll see if I'll get angry about
every
it.
single person who buys this phone, and there's no way to fix it. The colorful exterior aluminum oxide anodized layer on the iPhone is a level 9 on most scale of hardness, second in hardness only to diamonds, which are a level 10. We'll talk more about this in a second, but in order to achieve that durable oxide layer, the bare aluminum frame is dipped into an acidic electrolyte bath and then electrified. It's a really cool process to
it's called anodization.
watch, and it happens very quickly. However, the sharp corners, like the ones you see here on the iPhone 17 Pro camera plateau, are the literal Achilles heel of anodizing. It's the weakest point of the coating, since
What? Who cares? What? What are we even talking about?
there's not enough
Like, by that logic, iPads that have like pretty sharp edges similar to this on the side, Macs have pretty sharp edges once you open them up. So all of these devices have like Achilles heels of anodization built into them?
substrate or aluminum at that sharp corner to securely hold the top aluminum oxide in place. And Apple went and made the literal sharpest cliff possible here on the iPhone 17 Pro. For some reason, Apple didn't add a chamfer, fillet, or radius around the camera plateau, and I think it was intentional.
A chamfer would scratch more at that point because it would be shiny, it would pick up the scratches easier.
It looks cooler. But that decision to look cool out of the box is going to plague everyone who owns this phone down the road. And I'll show you physically what I mean. I do still have a buy a big knife, get a little jerry-rig knife free deal going to the end of the month.
I feel
Just
like
add 'em both to
there's so much reaching in this video about like issues. This is like nitpicking of the highest fucking order.
card at the same
Oh no, wait. Did I not make myself small again? Oh, I'm such a fucking moron. We're going back, baby, going back.
As an Android user, I'm extremely jealous.
So, you know what? I didn't miss much here. This is the plateau he was talking about. We don't need to rewatch the entire front. Sorry, I wasn't even checking my chat or anything during it. Sorry. So, yeah, that's what he's talking about, basically. That's the issue. That's the plateau. So, yeah, I apologize for being a moron up front. we can continue from here.
To your card at the same time, and the discount is automatic. But let's not
That's
get
why I
distracted.
don't like to do big mark in the beginning of the video. It makes me forget about it later on.
Jumping in to get a close going to the end of the month, just add them both to your cart at the same.
I have no idea where
I do still have a buy a big knife, get a little jerry-rig knife free deal going to the end of the month. Just add them both to your cart at the same time, and the discount is automatic. But let's not get distracted. Jumping in to get a closer look.
Okay,
with the digital
thankfully we're
microscope,
not
this
getting
thing is
interrupted
so
by
fun.
ads or
We can
anything,
first
so
scope
maybe it's
into
just the
leaf
download
of the
feature
Apple
that's
logo.
not working.
But that's not what we came here to see. The cliff Apple has milled into the aluminum has no chamfer, bevel, or fillet, and it's about as straight up and down as aluminum can get. And you'll see why that's a problem here in a second. And don't get me wrong, I am a huge fan of the switch from a glass slab sandwich to this new aluminum unibody design. Overall, it's more durable. Aluminum is a Mohs 3 or 4 on the Mohs scale of hardness, while glass is a 5 or 6. Unless, of course, we're talking about Corning's new Ceramic Shield 2.
I hate that he calls it Corning Ceramic Shield 2 because it's clearly more durable than Victus 2. Like, this is an Apple solution that's co-developed with Corning. It's the same shit we always get whenever Apple like develops something, but it's then being produced by somebody else. The A19 Pro is built on TSMC's N3P, but it is an Apple processor. It's Apple in-house designed. It has Apple P-cores, Apple E-cores, Apple GPU, Apple Neural Engine, Apple's tandem OLED screens. The way that it's designed in that regard, clearly the first generation is absolutely relying on Apple in-house solutions. And yes, down the line it will become available to others, just as LTPO was, even though Apple was instrumental in the creation of LTPO. I don't understand where this disrespect is, because Apple doesn't build its own factories and whatever. Yeah, Apple finances other companies' factories, develops core technologies both for the actual end like technology, but also for the production of that technology. So I have no idea what he's talking about.
Okay, some black magic somehow makes the marks at level 6 and 7 almost
Yeah, so here we see very slight ones at 7. In fact, this is so slight, we see usually deeper ones at level 6. On most devices, including the Galaxy S25U. I've seen people use the Galaxy S24U to say, oh, Samsung was first. Guys, there are military-grade smartphones out there. You realize that have way better durability than any iPhone or Galaxy. You cannot say Samsung was first because one device was good even 2 years ago, but then apparently they didn't want to use that solution on the next premium model. Yeah, at that point Samsung is not first. Samsung at that point did a one-off, and then you should count it against all the other one-offs. Something is first if something gets continuously improved upon over the years. Like it's like saying Nokia Lumia, like those, like what was it called, 1080 or something like that. That's the first high resolution like camera solution. Yeah, kind of, but it works completely differently than the computational photography pipeline dependent, still much thinner modern day smartphone flagships. Like, you would look into something even like the 100 megapixel camera on the Galaxy S20 Ultra or something like that to claim what was first, because it was then actually continuously adopted and continuously improved upon. We now have 200 megapixel sensors. We have now sensors that are close to 1 inch rather 1/1 inch rather than 1/1.3 inches. That's what it means to be first. Like, it has to exist in a paradigm of new technologies that then were continuously improved. If you do a one-off that works completely differently, just because it technically achieves one specific thing doesn't mean you were first. It means you did something entirely different that most times people didn't even want.
Disappear. The level 8 pick behaves like usual though, and gashes through the glass with no problem. The front 18 megapixel camera is also protected.
I still feel he doesn't give this enough respect. Like, he says he's like a big fan, but I feel like if this had happened on like Corning Victus 2 or something like that, he would be like singing the praises of like, oh my god, they did miracle work or whatever, right? He would package it mostly as a joke, but still, right? While because this is iPhone and because he knows this is a more custom solution than he implies originally, he has to play it down.
Under the same slab of Ceramic Shield 2, this has the new square sensor inside, which hopefully we'll see more of during the teardown. The camera sits just below the razor-thin earpiece slit, and part of me is curious if just rubbing the Pro on a table is enough to snap those corners off of the camera plateau.
Snapping them off? What is even that phrasing? To scuff them?
But nope, so far so good.
Yeah, so that's by the way, guys, that's what is it tested for. It's tested for real life scenarios like this. It's not gonna be tested for his fucking level 8 hardness pick. It's not gonna be like even for keys. Like there's so much else that scuffs here beyond the plateau. Like the rest of the body will scuff through keys. That's part of aluminum. That's part of the compromise. All design is compromise. Titanium is compromise. Titanium is heavier than aluminum. Titanium is way worse at heating properties. Titanium is worse at radio frequency transparency than aluminum. Titanium is more expensive than aluminum. But mind you, it reminds you of the fact that even this iPhone, right, that now matches, by the way, Samsung's Ultra's both RAM capacity with 12 gigs of RAM and Galaxy's storage capacity at 256 gigabytes is actually $100 less expensive, while it's universally better in battery life, antenna connection, screens, peak performance, sustained performance, and that across CPU, GPU, neural engine, everything. But people will not talk about this objectively better value. They will bring up some some Chinese ultra phone that gets produced in like 5 million units max, which means that you wouldn't even be able to necessarily get it to the same degree as you get an iPhone Pro. So of course there are some different considerations in how it's being built, how much it costs to build and everything. I just feel like there's this inherent disrespect towards really good engineering that I never applied to Samsung. Like when Samsung made the Galaxy S25 Edge pretty durable, I came out and said, oh, it's pretty durable. I didn't come out and say, oh, this device is shit, whatever. I think the device is shit for $1099, but that's because it competes then directly with the S25 Plus and S25 Ultra. I think for the same reason most people should buy the base iPhone 17 over the iPhone Ultra. If you ask me about certain ways how the iPhone Air performs, I will tell you it has a shit speaker. Like, I will be honest with you, I don't understand why these people who are so like about fairness, like fairness is not just for the little guy. That's what I always try to say. Fairness is also for, yes, the multinational, multi-billion, multi-trillion dollar company. Because if fairness isn't applied to everyone, it's not fair.
And of course, while the Ceramic Shield 2 is indeed the best we've ever seen, glass is...
I love this, right? It's such a strong statement to make. Apple literally gave you the most protective front glass on any smartphone ever, and he's using that statement for this.
still glass, and it's never a bad idea to add a layer of protection to your phone.
I did too, true. But I feel like at this point, if you are a super honest YouTuber in that regard, I will tell you, you know what, guys? Most of you probably don't need even a protective glass over it. And for those of you who are known that you scratch your devices really easily, whether it's because you're, again, carrying it around with your keys or lose change money, I understand that. But if you drop your device, that's a little bit different. I have not seen crazy drop tests yet with this technology, but in those cases, it's usually better to just get a case that has like a bigger edge, like a bigger lip up front. So Apple's cases in that regard, well, they do provide like a little bit of height over the actual body. It's not much, unfortunately. So maybe get like a better protective case. But yeah, but because he has his sponsorship, he's mentioning this, even though he basically is implying that you kind of don't necessarily need it. And that's what I would be telling you, because I don't have a sponsorship here.
Especially in this economy where resale value is extremely important. The Prism glass from my channel sponsor dbrand has a foolproof installation procedure with its own app. Like, hey Jerry, asked a question. The decorative anodizing that Apple applies to the surface of their phone could be anywhere from 2 to 25 micrometers in thickness. That's about 0.025 millimeters, or less than half the diameter of a human hair.
Yep.
Not that I would know. It's a tough, colorful shell, tougher than regular paint to be sure, just not super thick, which means it's not invincible. The top of the iPhone 17 Pro has a plastic 5G antenna.
Yeah, I love this because, yeah, that plastic stuff that's also going to be here, of course, around the antenna lines. Yeah, that is obviously scratching just as much. If you did this knife shit on anything else, it would also probably scratch the regular glass on the back too, because that one is actually more optimized for shatterproofness rather than scratch resistance.
Slot, and the left side has more of the brilliant orange anodizing and 3 buttons that will not be popping off on their own. The bottom of the 17 Pro has its USB-C port that can charge to 50% in about 20 minutes, as well as the lower stereo loudspeaker, which the new iPhone Air does not have. I think it'll be pretty cool to see what changes have happened on the inside, so make sure you're subscribed for the teardown.
No.
The Apple logo on the cosmic orange is perfectly in place, like surprisingly well aligned with the glass etching. Thumbs up for that. Then at the top we have our 48 megapixel wide angle camera. Then the 48 megapixel main camera down at the bottom, and the 48 megapixel 4x telephoto off to the side, all of which are still covered with Apple's version of sapphire crystal. You can see the lenses registering on my diamond tester, while my Casio F91W does not. The single LED flash has a plastic diffuser, and whatever laser focus thing this is on the other corner is protected with glass.
But it's not
we're
like
up here, it's
sapphire
time
in
to see if
actual
I'm correct
hardness,
about
like
that
7 out
edge
of
being
10 is
fragile.
not the sapphire.
Let's say you have your phone in the same pocket as a coin. Pretty normal everyday situation. The exterior level 9 anodizing layer is able to withstand any abrasion from that coin, except for on the sharp corner of the camera plateau.
That's not
The
what's
corner of the plateau is rubbed off and gone. What about keys, though? We've tested keys on anodizing
what is
before,
the international
and
standard
everywhere
here
the
that Apple is ignoring? Is there an international standard about aluminum not having hard edges? Like, also, like, again, I feel like people don't understand when they, like, I guess Apple could have rounded this off, but again, scratches would still happen just from the pressure of like a key or a coin being in your pocket. But then I also have like a question, like, because if they did like a diamond cut chamfered edge the way they did it on like the iPhone 5 front and stuff like that one scratched super easily. It's just that it was glossy and shiny.
Oxide has been allowed to secure itself to the aluminum is protected from scratching, except for the sharp corner of the camera plateau. Again, after one incursion with a foreign object, that corner is now gone. Looking again through the microscope,
like, you can literally say that about anything. Yeah, like you literally scuffed it like deliberately. What do you mean? It's not like they were hugging each other like nicely.
The orange aluminum oxide is still looking fly, except for where it's not, and the silver is shining through. I think the deep blue anodizing is going to be even more susceptible to damage. The same coin that on the flat portion of the plateau gets sanded into dust, on the corner the anodizing is what chips away. The key, same thing. The plateau itself is super scratch resistant, except for where Apple did not add the radius or curve to the plateau. The aesthetic design choice is going to end up—
What? But he's clearly showing— wait, is this just the— is that scuffing from the actual like coin? Is that the coin itself rubbing off?
looking worse in the long run because the anodizing just doesn't stick to that spot. It's a tad weird that Apple would do this. It's a well-known phenomenon, and there are several international standards for anodizing sharp corners. None of these are legally binding laws, by the way, just voluntary
so it has
guidelines
nothing
that
to do with actual standards. It's just common procedure.
manufacturers
That's
can
not like the word standard is not that.
follow if they want. The ISO standard says that sharp edges should be machined into a radius 10 times the intended thickness, which if Apple is using 25 micrometer thick anodizing, the minimum radius would be between 1/4 and 1/2 millimeter. The US military standard says about the same thing.
What US military standard? Why are we comparing it to a US military standard? What does it have to do with—
It's anywhere between 1/4 and 1/2 millimeter. But Apple just didn't follow either of those public suggestions. I'm sure the engineers at Apple suggested a fillet. It's usually the designers who veto smart ideas. On the blue camera shelf, you can see how a good chunk of that anodizing near the edge just sheared off.
Because designers don't want their devices to be pretty in the long run? Or what's the conspiracy here? Or are you saying that it would have made the lip thicker, like the edge there, and that was not liked by the designers?
Like an iceberg in the Arctic. And don't get me wrong, I am a massive fan of this new iPhone design. Less glass and more aluminum is always a good thing when it comes to durability. These chips are purely cosmetic and won't affect the functionality of the phone. Just remember when damage does happen that it's not your imagination and not your fault. It's Apple's design because anodizing doesn't stick to corners. The smaller piece of textured glass on the back is just...
Okay, so that's not something that would happen with something like this case, I guess, because this case is obviously is covering up that corner, but okay.
As abrasive as the anodized coatings and is very impervious to scratching. The dust just wipes away. If Apple would have added the same millimeter fillet,
okay, so then his thumbnail is just a complete lie by showing this, implying that there are scratches too.
That they have everywhere else on the phone, there wouldn't be any issues with chipping, but it would look different than it does now. As it stands, the weakest point for cosmetic...
So literally the only look, the problem is the reason why I'm covering it this way. Look at this thumbnail. Does it look like that? Like he literally like etched like Wolverine cuts into the device to make it look like his thumbnails are so fucking deceptive. Like realistically, what should be in the thumbnail, if you wanted to be actually correct, would have been this. Okay, let's do it with like the deep blue. Here, he should have like zoomed into this more and made it like almost like a 2.5D photo, like from here to here, from the inside the plateau or on top of the plateau, and that should have been the thumbnail.
Apple's design because anodizing doesn't stick to corners. The smaller piece of textured glass on the back is just as cosmetic blemishes is going to be on that sharp edge where the anodizing isn't physically
I'm also like, at this point, he's just showing a super thin configuration here. He's not really measuring anything. That's just the entire cutoff. Most of it is even plastic. The sharp actual edge is basically immeasurably thin for this.
Capable of sticking. And there's no way to avoid the inevitable chipping unless you never set your phone down. Or
you wear a case.
You know, get a case.
Yeah, like, I know it was like written as a joke almost, but yeah. Or like, I don't know, like, don't move it around the table like what you did. And even then, by the way, mind I tell you that he did that table test in the beginning. So he's like contradicting his own terms.
The iPhone 17 Pro. For some reason, Apple didn't add a chamfer, fillet, or radius around the camera plateau, and I think it was intentional, so it looks cooler. But that
Look, he did that. He did actually test it on a table, but that did not result in noticeable.
So good.
Yeah, that didn't happen because guess what? What is taller than this edge? It's actually the cameras. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Your own testing does not show your result. Like, if you are gonna complain about coins and keys, okay, that's fine to me. But, like, you're very clearly not being, like, super forward with your own testing results.
Capable of sticking. And there's no way to avoid the... I'm not super nervous about the bin test on this one, it being a solid brick of aluminum and all. The 6.3-inch 3000...
Also, can we also talk about the durability of Ceramic Shield 2 even with fire? Like, I know later Corning glass screens have been pretty good on that, but this is literally the best I have ever seen in that regard.
The nit 120Hz Super Retina OLED display is also not affected by the heat from my lighter, even after 30 seconds of being torched.
Yeah, so usually after a time there will be at least some discoloration. Maybe not that pixels on newer screens, but yeah, this is unique.
Finally, the bin test. There's more metal inside this 17 Pro than any other iPhone that Apple has ever made, so there's no surprise that it has zero flex, zero cracks, zero creaks, and zero damage when it comes to structural rigidity. The same goes for the iPhone 17 Pro Max. No flex, no bins, and 100% no issues whatsoever. The iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max passed my durability test, except for the part where your iPhone 17 Pro is going to chip and there's nothing you can do to save it. Apple's own transparent case, which isn't all that transparent, does have a raised lip around the camera plateau, so that will help keep things intact. But if you want a case that looks even better and more transparent and more protective...
No. Not from your channel sponsor, the brand. No. And yeah, we can even look at how the iPhone Air performed for him, right?
Have the thinnest smartphone Apple has ever made, the new iPhone Air. It's fair as the air enters my lair that Tim Cook's sayin' a prayer. It's gotta be a scare to arrive at my secretaire where I've got no hair, though I do declare that I will be fair. Feel free to stare while we disregard welfare. I am aware that this is a phone's worst nightmare. While the Air is kinda rare, I do have one spare. It's received much fanfare for its dramatic flair. It's time to see if it'll need
That's a
repair
cute
or
poem. Like, but I have to say,
repair.
after
Pulling it out of
these
the
thumbnails, I never was a big fan of JerryRig. I think that his treatment of Apple in that regard, like always downplaying all major achievements basically from Apple versus Android. I mean, he even calls himself an Android user, right? Which is fine, obviously. Like, it can be his preference, but it's also very clearly impacting his work on the channel.
box it is.
And also, yeah, like you can see, like chamfered edges, they do scuff and scratch to no one's surprise. So this solution wouldn't have solved this. So he's basically saying it just should be a much thicker layer, just around that corner. Or it should have been like a rounded off design, which I guess that would have been like an okay criticism, but it was leveled at really the most stupid way.
Surprisingly light, and the mirror finished grade 5 titanium is surprisingly thin. Titanium is probably my
what he did with the original iPhone here. Yikes.
favorite metal, and I am sad it's gone from the rest of the iPhone 17 lineup.
So yeah, that is bullshit, obviously, because I always hate that when people just say, "Oh, I like this one. I dislike that it's gone." But like you know the downsides of titanium for a smartphone, don't you? Like you obviously, because this video is something that I pre-watched, you will very clearly list the upsides of titanium, which again they. Just thinking about the smartphone, because again, as somebody coming from the medical field, I actually do like titanium quite a lot for a lot of reasons, but not for smartphones. I mean, over stainless steel, yeah, give it to me every day, because in terms of heating properties, it's just as bad, basically, as stainless steel. It depends a little bit on the exact, like, alloy that you're using, but usually titanium can even be slightly better, which, given that it's actually more durable than stainless steel and lighter, at that point, it's absolutely a no-brainer to pick titanium over stainless steel, but then it has so many downsides versus aluminum, especially an aluminum unibody.
It's cool though that it has the same polish around the edge that the original iPhone had 17 years ago. For the Americans out there, the iPhone Air is as thin as one Oreo wafer.
That's funny.
Or three
I'm not gonna
toothpicks.
shit talk
It could
him
also
about
be
everything.
half a Lego
Making
brick,
fun
the
of
same
America's
size as
weird,
3 US quarters,
like
or,
non-metric
7
systems.
razor
Yeah.
blades from my JerryRig utility knife. I do have a buy a big knife, get a little knife free deal going on till the end of the month. Just throw them both in your
Almost
shopping
more
cart
like
at the same
8 of
time.
those than
But
7.
let's not get distracted. Ice cream lids are another standard form of measurement here in the USA, and the iPhone Air is clocking in at about a quarter of an ice cream
Or
lid.
about
For the rest of the
the
world,
top
of course, the
portions,
iPhone Air
too.
is 5.6 millimeters thin. My worry, though, is that the button placement is going to compromise the integrity of the high-strength aluminum. The buttons eat away a substantial
what?
portion
The
of the
high-strength
titanium wall,
aluminum?
and
What?
as anyone who's ever played Jenga would know, if you remove enough of the structure, things will eventually fail. But just like we've done with
True,
hundreds
but
and
that's,
hundreds
again,
of other
not a
phones over the
realistic,
past decade,
like,
let's start with the
worry.
scratch test of the new Ceramic Shield 2,
So that's
which is supposedly
the
3
reason
times
why I
more
want to watch this portion is because this is actually now his first time being confronted with the quality of Ceramic Shield 2
resistant.
and its
We'll see about
properties.
Plastic usually scratches at a level 2 or 3, glass scratches at a 5 or 6, and sapphire usually scratches at a level 8 or 9. And as you can clearly see from my picks, the level 6 marks are basically non-existent.
They're
and we
completely
also
non-existent, like there's some dirt more on
barely
it.
see any scratches at a level 7. So I can't even say the thing I always say. Apple
And
ruined it.
again, there's also always a little bit of a, just because the actual thing is exactly equally hard in terms of material, how hard you actually apply it to your screen will still matter. So it's not always an exact test. Like if you wanted to actually make this test perfect, you wouldn't do it with your hand. You would do it with a machine that applies a standardized amount of pressure.
The Ceramic Shield 2 from
Which he
Corning
can
is
afford and he
definitely a
can
massive
get,
improvement
just-
this year.
Again,
However,
just like he even keeps doing it. I know obviously people might have criticized him afterwards, but this is the first time where he basically gives all the laurels to Corning. Even though obviously this is a customized Apple solution. Is it 100% custom? Would it be possible without Corning? Most likely not. But Apple obviously has great experience in working with all kinds of materials like aluminum, stainless steel, titanium, even gold, right? They worked with glass across since the original iPhone. They made Corning what they are today because they were the first ones to be able to make great touchscreens with full-on glass. Like, yeah, what are you talking about? Obviously, this has at least something to do with Apple.
Glass is still glass, and even if the ceramic shield 2 is harder than before, certainly would approve an surface. But the anti-reflectiveness pales in comparison to my 2-year-old Galaxy S24 Ultra.
Yeah, so this is what I've been trying to say. This one to me was clear when Apple advertised 30% low reflectivity. This should be like double still the reflectivity, maybe even close to 2.5 times of the S25 Ultra overall. That's why I ordered a glass cover here for this. These are not the ones. These are the ones that I ordered originally. Then I forgot to cancel them. But I actually got some that supposedly reflect only 0.9% of light. Even if it's actually double that, that would actually make it pretty comparable to screens like these. So I will be testing that out. But yeah, the Galaxy is the most anti-reflective smartphone right now on the market, and kudos to Samsung for that. They did compromise on some of the scratch resistance of the S24U, which did have this, but I am inclined to believe that whatever they were doing, especially on the S24U, it's different on the S25U. Not the actual panel. The panel is actually the same. It's one of the last 8-bit panels on high-end smartphones. It's one of the last smartphones to not reach over 1500 nits of full screen brightness, for example. So it's not the greatest screen in the world by any means for a $1,300 device, mind you. And that's a little bit of my criticism that I think a lot of people are missing out, is that this panel is noticeably a little bit less lively than iPhone screens, than competitive Android devices. It's not as bad, not nearly as bad as what we associate with matte screens, screens that actually are completely anti-reflective or whatever. And it's not even as pronounced as on Apple's nano texture screens, which noticeably change the actual texture of the screen. I'm not denying that. But the anti-reflective coating here on the Galaxy S24 and to a lesser degree S25U does, to my experience, my personal experience, impact just how light transmission works through it. And that, to me, makes it less lively than an iPhone or a competitive Chinese product. Part of that is also, of course, again, this is not the brightest panel. This is not a 10-bit panel, so it doesn't have the most vibrant colors, which, again, iPhones have had now for years and years, 10-bit panels. So Samsung is supposedly adopting the M14 OLED technology on the Galaxy S26 family. I'm not sure if that's going to be only the case on the S26U or on the entire S26 family, and that's a screen technology that now Apple has been employing on the iPhone 16 Pro and 17. I think the entire family, honestly, with how high quality those LTPOs are. Plus, Apple is most likely then going to be moving to M15 or whatever is going to be available by the end of that year. So Samsung might make great OLED screens, but it doesn't mean you actually get the greatest OLED screens on Samsungs. Plus, again, there's also big differences in how screens performs based on the display controllers, just like how the software handles HDR. So just because I know some people also just as we talked about with Corning, it's oh, but Apple gets its panels from Samsung. Have you ever wondered why Apple can order the same panel from Samsung and LG and basically get the same quality, but nobody else is buying LG the way Apple does, right? Because clearly LG is not able to produce Samsung quality panels without Apple. Right, but that's like, again, it's completely left to the wayside. It's just like Japan Display made better LCDs than most manufacturers back in the day. That's partially because Apple hung on to LCDs for way longer than a lot of other manufacturers, and Japan Display was able to produce them for longer for them and keep improving them. HTC also tried, but then HTC also never had the sales volume to like make LCD still happen in the industry. And then once Apple, of course, switched to OLED on the iPhone 10, we kind of knew where the industry is going to go. But again, LTPO, tandem OLED, these are all technologies that are either in some way standard or they become standards, but the way they're originally created are very much as Apple technologies. I know some people will point out, well, TVs have tandem OLED, and there's like a Dell screen, a laptop that has a tandem OLED screen. These are not the same solutions as the iPad screens. And whatever is also happening on the iPad through its display controller or a cooling solution or whatever, to make it 1,000 full screen nits, while the Dell tandem OLED laptop struggles to hit 550, you obviously know those are very different solutions, from the actual tech to the display controller to the software. So that matters. It's what really matters in terms of innovation.
You can count the individual diodes from my LED desk lights on the Samsung Glass, while the iPhone Air just shows a white rectangle. There's a clear winner. Better luck next time, I guess. The front-facing 18-megapixel.
Again, also, by the way, no shout-out to the fact that Apple is actually giving that less reflective screen also to the $799 model, while Samsung is only keeping that one to the $1299 Ultra. So in that case, it's actually more expensive than the Pros. Now he's comparing it to a $1,000 iPhone Air, which again is not cheap, but like, really, like, absolutely no context, nothing. And like, why else are you mentioning these things if you cannot provide context around it? At this point, you're just shitting on Apple because it feels good to you, I guess.
Selfie camera is also protected by the Ceramic Shield 2. It has a new square sensor inside, but we'll have to see what that looks like during the teardown. Subscribe so you don't miss it. The reason titanium is my favorite metal is because it's significantly lighter and stronger than other metals. And it's biocompatible, meaning that all artificial joints and screws that go into human bones and bodies are usually made from titanium.
Yep.
And even more interestingly, when humans
like
are
titanium, like reactions, allergies are extremely rare, which they absolutely would not be if we used stainless steel, which some of it is stainless steel, but very little of the exposed areas. That one is most definitely titanium, but sometimes parts inside can be stainless steel. But then aluminum, that is a much more reactive material. That one would cause allergies and stuff like that. Copper, obviously, really bad in that regard. Silver, really bad in that regard.
cremated, the only thing left behind in the dust is their titanium hardware.
Yeah, that's like when you bury Wolverine, right? Like in the Deadpool and Wolverine scene, and you get like his skeleton that's made out of adamantium.
And I'm sure it's unrelated, but the iPhone Air is made with 80% recycled titanium. Thumbs up for that. The sound of scratching titanium doesn't pierce quite as hard as scratched aluminum.
I'm pretty sure when Apple says recycle, they also mean that a lot of it gets recycled in their production processes. I'm not sure where they would be getting so much titanium.
The interior is still indeed scratchable. The buttons on the iPhone Air are not removable. Making our way to the bottom of the Air, the derriere, some might say, we see the slightly off-center charging port, surrounded by 4 extra holes. I imagine these are mesh-covered microphone holes, since the Air does not have a lower stereo speaker,
and
just a
they're
mono
just built to
speaker
be
up in the
symmetrical there,
earpiece.
and
The charging
even
port as well
microphones
charges
down
quite a
there.
bit slower than the Pro models, so not only is the battery smaller, but it charges slower too. It'll hit 50% charged in 30 minutes,
mostly
instead
evens
of
out
20
in
minutes like on the
regular
Pro
usage.
models. So if battery life and charging speed are important to you, as well as listening to music with both ears, you might be better off with a regular iPhone instead of the Air.
Or the Pros.
Making our way to the back of the Air, we have a soft-touched etched glass panel with the smooth, shiny Apple logo in the center. Zooming into the logo, you can see that the Apple image itself is a tad north of the etch, but it's not a big deal. Perfect apples are hard to find, and it's only a minor defect. Moving up to the camera plateau, poured
Okay.
from the same piece of
guess.
solid glass, this visor
I'm
won't
not
be
even
popping
sure
off
if
on
that
its
was
own.
like a joke.
Apple says this singular 48 megapixel lens is 2 cameras in one, and for sure it can identify as whatever it wants, but it's still missing the dedicated wide angle and telephoto lens from the Pro models. So if you're an avid picture taker, it's just something to keep in mind. The rear-facing microphone has an IP68 metal watertight grille over the opening, as well as a plastic diffused single-color LED flash. Honestly, one thing not a whole lot of people are talking about, but should, is how Tim Cook single-handedly saved this year's iPhones from certain disaster. Like, we all know the tariff situation is wild, but there was 100% tariffs on electronics coming into the USA until Tim Cook bravely walked into the Oval Office with a gold bar
That's
potentially
criticism
worth
against Tim that I'm more than happy
$150,000 and
to
plopped it down on
accept.
Donald's desk.
I understand
And
why
boom,
he did what
the
he
next day
did,
all the
and
tariffs on the
obviously he is a
iPhones were gone,
fantastic
saving us
CEO for what he
consumers
did.
about
But I do
$1,000 a
not
phone.
like people
Absolute
kowtowing to
brilliant
Trump.
moment
So
move by Tim.
kudos
We were almost
to
paying
Jerry for being
$2,000
critical
for the
here.
air
Jerry,
instead of
of course, being far
$1,000.
more
And
left
while
than
we are
I am,
safer now, I
I'm
do hope Mr.
center-left.
Cook has a
Jerry's
few more of those
an
solid gold
leftist in
bars up
many
his
ways,
sleeve ready for
but
next year.
that's criticism
Surprisingly,
I'm
the
fine
flame
with
didn't
having.
appear to mess with the oleophobic coating. Finally, the bend test. Titanium is nearly twice as rigid as aluminum, while being about 60% more elastic than aluminum as well, meaning that if it does bend, it won't stay
So
there.
this is one thing that I feel like people like. I feel like people just like to criticize Apple execs, and sometimes there is stuff like to criticize, like when Tim Cook wrongly claimed that they are kind of invented vapor chambers. I'm not against that criticism. Of course, that's a silly, stupid statement. But like people, when Apple said, "Oh, it's designed to be actually a little bit flexible, similar to how a building, that an earthquake-proof building, is actually designed to flex around and move around a little bit." So it just doesn't snap or breaks in half, right? Because it cannot withstand, or like from a certain point, it just cannot withstand any force and just completely breaks. And people were like, "Oh, ha, 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 this is not an earthquake-proof build." Yeah, but that's the nature of using titanium. That's what, like, the elasticity that's built into titanium. That's also partially why it even used for like joints and stuff like that, joint replacement surgery and things like that. Yeah, that's how it works. That's what, like. I don't understand why people feel the need to nitpick everything. It's just like whenever people like make fun of like the Phil Schiller quote about like, "Oh, it took courage to take something out." Of course it does. Like, I'm glad that, for example, Apple, like even when they introduced HDMI and SD card slots back to the MacBook Pro, I'm glad that they didn't introduce USB-A back. I hate USB-A, and USB-A at this point, did you notice that USB-A is actually dead as the standard, right? It's not being improved in any way. It doesn't get faster, it doesn't get better charging, nothing. All the improvements are happening through USB-C, Thunderbolt, all of those technologies. USB-A isn't even getting security and stuff like that, but people still insist on putting USB-A into like gaming laptops because, oh, the Wi-Fi adapter for like your gaming mouse is USB-A. And like at that point, use a fucking USB-C adapter for the same thing. Like if you're buying a device for 2025, the company should have some courage to push a technology forward. Similar to like even a little bit of kudos here to Nintendo, which had the courage to say, look, we have an SSD inside, a 2 gigabytes per second SSD. The flash drives, basically our game cartridges are around half that speed, 1 gigabyte. Like, we cannot just use standard micro SD that's 150 megabytes, maybe at best 200 megabytes per second. Please at least use micro SD Express that gives you like 800 or 900 megabytes per second, right? And yes, that required some courage to say. You cannot just reuse your old Nintendo Switch 1 micro SD to save money. Maybe it's fine, of course, for Nintendo Switch 1 games, but no, it just wouldn't work on Nintendo Switch 2 games. Or it would be so bad for loading, it would be so bad for streaming in-game assets. You need to push that tech forward. And sometimes leaving older tech behind, even cheaper tech behind, is important to achieve those solutions. And even then, by the way, that microSD Express solution, that's now over 2 times slower than the built-in storage. So you can even, I guess, criticize Nintendo for not offering at least like higher storage tiers of the Nintendo Switch. I would have gladly picked one up that has a 5G modem, 1 TB of built-in storage, and OLED, and I would have paid like $650 for it. But yeah, that's, I guess, not an option for me. Fuck me. Benveni joining the chat. Hello. I apologize. I started streaming a little bit late today, so I know like it confused a lot of people. And yeah, you're busy going to watch later. I know. But hey, thank you for tuning in the Discord, commenting on stuff, even like hyping up the stream for other people. Thank you so much.
In theory, we should not have the same.
I should also say, this is something that I left out because I got confused when I was still in big Mark mode during the early parts of the stream, but you can support this channel through liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting. I love interacting with a lively live chat, so let me know what you think, what you agree with, what you disagree with. You can also leave super chats to support me financially here, or you can become a channel member right here on YouTube. Shout out to Angelica, Steve, Max, Maximus, and Jonathan, our MarkCheck Pro Max supporters, or you can become a subscriber over on Patreon. And shout out to Benveni, who is our MarkCheck Pro Max supporter on that platform.
Reoccurring bin gate issue we saw back with the iPhone 6. In theory, going all in.
So this is what people expected, right? And people also said, and in fact, one of our viewers, Jan, I believe our German viewer from Hamburg, if I'm not wrong, said that basically that Ben test with the journalist from Tom's Guide, basically people claim that, oh, this was all premeditated and whatever, and basically Apple like talked with them firsthand. Why would they do that? Right? Why would they need to talk about them if they had confidence and it wouldn't break? And see and believe it, it does not break.
Freaking nothing. Flipping it around and bending from the front, we actually get some curvature this time, but thanks to that titanium, it snaps back as straight as it was coming out of the box.
And that glass too, mind you, that these are custom glass solutions that were designed to be bendable alongside those titanium side rails.
A few minutes ago. Just like it was forged in the heart of a dying star or deep in the fires of Mount Doom, the iPhone Air
Benveni saying, I'm gonna watch now. Well, you're welcome to do that too, brother.
Has no business being this indestructible. Both of my thumbs now hurt, along with my pride. The iPhone Air 100% passes
I have no idea where Riley
test.
is. I do apologize for the very impromptu stream. Like, I promised you guys some like real build up to this. But like, I basically did this like in half an hour preparing for the stream. I'm at least grateful that all the tech works now. Benveni, you missed it, but early on in the stream, I actually started streaming this video and actually covered it up with my full screen face for like a minute and a half. So I guess Riley at least would have been here to call this out.
I did have a contingency plan just in case Apple won. And since Apple did win, it's time to execute Plan B. Quantifiably finding out the exact force at which the iPhone Air will break. Join me on a scientific field trip to my garage.
Yeah, so he goes 73, and he starts applying pressure. This is not a super precise way of doing that. I mean, he could be using like something like, I guess, more pointy. In that way, he probably would need less pressure. So here it breaks at
oh my gosh, 230.
Oh, 30. Did it break already?
216 pounds 216.
Of pressure. Okay. Right. So that's all we need from this video, and that's what he obviously put in the thumbnail. The broken iPhone here. He also, of course, gave shout out again to D-Brand as a sponsor. But the reason why, like, JerryRig S25, S25 inch. So we can see how did he handle that device.
The thinnest Samsung phone, if I put it in my back pocket, its iPad that came out a year ago is 5.1 millimeters thick. Well, I mean, it used to be 5.1 before it went through some things, but there ain't nothing wrong with being a little thicker.
Jerry must have cried when he saw that video when they throw it across the room. I bet he had hoped that maybe because he's more muscular than like the Tom's Guide guy, which maybe was Tom, I'm not sure. He thought maybe he would be able to do that, but hey, he got almost 7 million views at this point, or was it 6.9 or 6.1? I probably should have disliked that video. I'm probably gonna do that later on, but yeah, it's not a great look. But first I want to see the scratching and the fireproofing here. Jesus, it's half the video is sponsorships. Jesus Christ.
Device is that if it ever does get dropped, it will probably be less likely to break, since there is less mass and kinetic energy to the phone in general. At least that's what I think on paper.
It's funny that he gives these positive points to a device like this, which he clearly did not mention for the iPhone Air.
The Edge is a whole 2 ounces lighter than the Ultra. There is, however, quite a lot of wobble thanks to the protruding camera lenses.
Which again, he did not compare that to the iPhone Air, which clearly has less wobble.
The S25 Edge does use a new Gorilla Glass called Ceramic 2 from Corning, which, as we can expect, still scratches at level 6 with...
Yeah, so this is not Ceramic 2. Wait, was that called Ceramic 2? Or I thought this was Victus 2. Wait. Did Samsung copy Apple's ceramic branding and I didn't even notice it? Has Samsung copied so much Apple stuff in recent years? Tech Apple, no. Samsung Tech Specs S25 Edge. Has Samsung started copying Apple so much that between the Apple Watch Ultra copy and the AirPods Pro? By the way, here are my AirPods Pro 2. I'll give some impressions on them as well. Feel free to ask me questions and stuff like that. All specs for you. I guess that's the English one, right? So colors, specification, accept display, dynamic AMOLED. So I guess they don't mention how it's built here. Connectivity, OS, sensors, physical specification. No. Server. Really? Is that all we're gonna get? Samsung S25 Edge. Is it really just called Ceramic 2? Is that why he thought that was a solution from Corning? Because it's a similar name. Because Apple has been calling Ceramic 2. Did he just make that up? No. It's Gorilla Glass Ceramic 2. Okay, so I guess Corning started giving out ceramic infused glass. I know it's not that much ceramic, but whatever, to other manufacturers, but it clearly doesn't perform like Apple's solution does. It's clearly way less durable. So that's why he thought that. He just didn't do the research. He didn't understand that Ceramic Shield 2 is completely separate from Ceramic 2. That's why he keeps calling it a Corning solution rather than an Apple solution, or what would be the most precise, an Apple-specific Corning solution. And now is the question, he didn't not bend this device, right? Show us the 17 p.m. Well, I can show you. I've already shown you guys in the beginning, but most of you weren't there.
I personally think that I'd rather keep those extra 2 ounces of weight and use them for something
useful. So the fire
useful.
was good here too in the testing.
But everyone is glorious carnage and sparks
that's my
and
deep
battery
blue
juice
iPhone
seeping
17
out of the cracks
Pro
of our
Max.
newly obliterated S25
and
Edge.
you can see, by the way, he's fascinated by the thinness of the product, and I mean, it got now 1/4 as many views as the iPhone video. So clearly, are people more interested in iPhones than super thin Galaxies? But
when bent from the back, we get a minor flex, and that's about it.
Yeah.
When the pressure is applied to the screen, however, I can start to see the back panel separate slightly right above the power button, near where the camera lens tray meets the back glass. Which
he clearly also doesn't try for as long and quite as hard as the iPhone, so just saying. Now, I'm not saying this device would actually necessarily bend. This device is very nicely built. That's the least of my concern for this
obviously
device.
compromises are water resistance, but surprisingly, still no structural damage. The only thing broke here is my brain and my ego. The Galaxy S25.
But he did not go to like his special equipment to see how much exact pressure. Like, why wouldn't that be like part of the iPhone's Air video, right? Like, oh, and here's a direct comparison to the S25 Edge, or even with the iPhone Pro, right? He could have done that too. He clearly has a spare model. He could have just said, oh, let us just compare the entire iPhone 17 family. But no, it's very clear that he had a little bit of a grudge against the Air. The Air would not budge to his grudge, and I'm starting to rhyme. Just like Jerry was. I'll need a wine cooler after this. Jesus Christ. Yeah, so these are the JerryRig videos. I hate his thumbnails. I don't hate Jerry. He's like a good intentioned guy. I don't agree with him always politically, but I agree with his broader political sentiment. As a center-left guy, obviously a more leftist guy is closer to me than a right-winger or whatever. But yeah, whatever, man. Like, these are such bad thumbnails.
So today,
and so clearly clickbaity. Oh, it's 6.3 million. Yeah, it's clearly succeeding in the algorithm, and very clearly here. Like, I'm not even sure if this video at this point might not just be hurting this one, or he is hoping that just putting them out so close together is just gonna benefit them in the algorithm. But yeah, definitely, like, we are not looking into the most fair treatment of Apple on the internet. Now, speaking of Apple treatment on the internet, Mrwhosetheboss. Now, because we do need, I did give you some of my camera stuff early on. Now, there are basically two pieces of data here from Mrwhosetheboss, similar to two pieces of content, 2.5 even, from JerryRigEverything. First is a big camera comparison with the S25 Ultra, and then a battery test that includes the S25 Ultra. Now, I know some people have tried to downplay these results because the iPhone wins by only 40 minutes. Against a device which, by the way, has still a larger capacity because he's in England, so he has the physical SIM card version of the iPhone 17 Pro Max. It also is one of the outlier results. Most tests show significantly higher, better performance, better battery stats, but okay. I guess we can start actually with the battery.
We've got the top end 16 Pro Max.
To the camera comparisons, and for that I would like to watch the Mrwhosetheboss video and the SuperSaf video. Guys, you are free to ask me anything about the iPhone 17 Pro Max and the AirPods Pro 3 while we go through this. That's kind of why I'm here.
Ever. Because on one hand, you've got this new iPhone Air, which is so thin it looks like it's going to last about 12 minutes. But then on the other hand, you've got the 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max, which Apple say offer an enormous leap in battery life. So let's find out how each of the new phones compare against each other.
It's funny, he also used like a Twitter post for that, and not even like big marketing from their website. Also, again, like usually Apple's comparisons are kind of like on multiple year basis. So just because it's 5-10% better, maybe even 15% better than the 16 Pro Max, that would now leave it with 20-25% better than the 15 Pro Max. So yeah, there is an enormous leap in battery life.
iPhone 17 Pro Max, the 17 Pro, the Air, and then the base 17. How they compare to last year?
I'm not sure his exact methodology if he left stuff like adaptive power mode on. So this is not a video I pre-watched in any way, shape, or form.
Got to the top end.
The screens are extremely bright for this kind of testing. So if you guys are wondering why are his results like under 8 hours, that's why.
16 Pro Max, and then the base 16, and then finally how they compare to Samsung with their flagship S25 Ultra. We'll make this as close as possible to how I would actually use my phone.
So I have no idea why the Galaxy looks dimmer. I'm just gonna blame that on the anti-reflective coating looking a little bit different here. Because in this room, very clearly, reflections are less of an issue as light transmission from the actual screen to our eyeballs. The iPhones do look brighter to me, but I mean, he did show them being calibrated. I have no idea what level he calibrated them to, mind you. I also hope he has any form of automatic brightness disabled. These are all details that really should be like listed in the beginning of the video. Guys, this is my testing methodology, but maybe that's because I'm coming from the medical field and I'm more used to like very stringent testing parameters.
In a real day. So let's start off by following along to a workout from my favorite gym YouTuber. And there's a pretty clear phone that I'm rooting for. This one, the base iPhone 17. Because this guy has already inherited just about every previously pro iPhone feature you could want. So
except ProRes, ProRAW, a telephoto camera, 10 gigabit USB-C. There are still some notable difference.
Also has pro battery life, then I mean, that's it.
I mean, it is going to perform better than the base iPhone 16, at least in most testing. He's also testing here on Wi-Fi. It seems like 5G, like cellular connectivity is disabled. So we're not going to see any of the specific gains of the Air through its C1X modem. We're seeing obviously the benefits of the N1 Wi-Fi and Bluetooth modem over the iPhone 16 family. And in terms of 5G, at least the iPhone 17 Pros, I'm not actually sure about the base model, but they are using the X80 modem, so that would put them above the X71 modem on the iPhone 16 series. So let's see.
No one ever needs to spend more to buy a Pro again. Okay, that's our gym session done. It's actually been a full hour since we unplugged the phone.
So we can already see, by the way, some results here that absolutely would. Now, granted, I do understand that the way iPhone calculates from 100% to 99%, your two longest percents are going to be 100 to 99 and 1 to 0. So that's just designed because it's always hard to measure when a battery is 100% full and when it's 100% empty. Usually when it goes like from 100% to 99, that's kind of a rough estimate. It's not really that concrete of a measure.
So there is absolutely no way that the 17 Pro Max and the 16 Pro Max over here are not lying to me right now with this 100% remaining figure. Get out of here. But it's definitely too early to draw any kind of conclusions. So let's jump over to Slack. This is what we use in our team to talk to.
Also, again, one thing that the 17 definitely also inherited from the 16 Pro is the thinner bezel. So the iPhone 16 actually in that regard, I believe, had thicker bezels than the 15 Pro, which obviously had thinner bezels than the 16 Pro. So this is more of like a 1.5 generational jump from 16 to 17. It would kind of be directly in the middle of how thick the bezel is between the two.
I'm going to ask everyone to compliment or roast the iPhone 17 phones. Your choice. And while we wait to see if a single person decides to compliment.
Also, and that's something that I have been spoiled because, yes, I did not pre-watch his camera comparison, but his camera comparison is actually lacking a point system at this point. He has individual points on which he evaluates the cameras on, but he does not say, oh, this is a 5:3 or a 6:2 or something like that. He just says, oh yeah, the iPhone won in the end. So unfortunately, I was spoiled on that.
We should talk about the elephant in the room with this generation. The iPhone 17 Pro and the Pro Max are now different depending on which country you buy.
Okay, I don't need those details.
Most large chunk of plastic, which needs its own SIM tray. Difference in battery capacity between generations.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I do have the device with 5.5% less battery.
Okay,
wish I had the one with
Slack.
over 5,000 milliampere hours.
A win here. So let's flick over to some lunchtime Instagram doom scrolling. Now, one thing to pay attention to is if we look at current battery percentages, then, well, actually, the iPhone Air's battery is already starting to slide comfortably into the 80s, but also B, there is, at least right now, almost zero difference between my iPhone 17 Pro Max and the iPhone 16 Pro Max, which kind of brings me to the other side of this eSIM coin. But given that I'm in the UK, one of the countries that has physical SIMs and therefore smaller batteries, are these new phones even going to be an improvement?
Of course they're going to be an improvement. They have more efficient components and they have larger batteries. But yes, the main gain is if you are in a region that has an eSIM only model. That's the point. That's not misleading advertisement. It still is better battery life across the board. If you put a 15 Pro Max here, it's gonna underperform the 16 Pro Max. Probably gonna, if it's a super fresh 15 Pro Max, it's probably gonna be on the same level as the S25 Ultra. On iOS 26, it might actually be like 5% lower at this point.
Great that Apple is increasing the size of the batteries for eSIM users. Is that the only reason that they're able to say these new Pro iPhones have this enormous lead-in battery? Do you just not get one of the key selling points of the phone if you're buying
It's not a key selling point. That's not like, did you see the marketing? There's so much more to the Pros, but like this is like super nitpicky. Like we have like certain Chinese devices that have different capacities based on where they are, but that has more to do with like regulatory stuff apparently.
Most countries. That's what we need to get to the bottom of. Now the other thing that's very surprising is that even though we're now closing in on 3.5 hours into this test, the iPhone 17 isn't really outperforming the iPhone 16.
So this is why I'm a little bit confused. This is not shown by any other test. Now I know that this is ProMotion, and I guess with the way he is testing, like a lot of like the benefits of adaptive refresh rate are kind of non-considered. But I'm also, again, I'm starting to wonder if like the brightness is not perfectly configured or something like that. Or maybe it's the earliest release of iOS 26, or the devices have not actually finished setting up properly yet. That can also be part of it, right? Because don't forget, devices need a little bit of time after being like configured first.
At all. Apple claimed an absolutely staggering 36% longer lifespan. So even
in video watching, yes.
You kind of expect not to see the fully optimal figure in real life. It's very surprising that we're not seeing any improvement right now. Bear in mind, we've done a lot of things to control this test. Like
also, like his testing is absolute brain rot. Like this is like, did he even do like regular browsing at this point? He just tested social media up until like the 70 and 80%. That's really bad, dude, for your brain. You really shouldn't just doom scroll. You should read an article or two. You should maybe read a book or two.
Which is like the thing that would benefit from
we can
subjecting myself to an hour and a half.
Okay, now he's playing Pokemon Pocket
X, which is more than any sane man should have to do. Let's unwind by opening some Pokemon booster packs. One thing I was quite concerned of.
This is like his brain, like how old is he? Like I'm 28. No way. I know he's like probably also like testing in a way to appeal to like the TikTok crowd, but this is actual brain rot. Like, is that because it's obviously easier to test stuff that is like half automated?
But that doesn't actually seem to be causing any issues here is iOS 26. When I was running the beta on my own phone, this software didn't just drain my battery, it waterboarded it. But I guess now
that's a beta. This is why I hate people doing battery tests from the beta.
The final release, the optimizations have come through. And I gotta give credit, considering that there are now like a bajillion lighting calculations occurring every time you do simple things like pull down your notification shade. It's pretty impressive.
You don't even do those things that much here though. You basically return to the home screen and then you jump to it. Sorry.
That it's not completely killing the battery, potentially helped by the new adaptive power
I actually
mode.
think that microphone issue right now was actually me spitting on it.
Which makes the software now much more aggressively cut down on background apps and processes. Now it's time to really cause some pain. We're going to open up the cameras, flip over to the front, and record 4K video at 60 frames.
His testing, does it really not include any browsing? So you would not even see any benefits of like how a highly optimized system handles like Safari versus how Android handles Chrome. Really?
Per second. And this is one of those tasks in which optimization is only going to help you so much. You can pretty quickly notice.
And also these results are also vastly different depending on the actual quality that you shoot, of course. If like the videos that you take with iPhone are way higher quality, then sure, that can be worth some like if the Galaxy shoots way worse quality, maybe that's a benefit for like battery life. But would you really not prefer a phone that potentially even eats like the same amount of battery life but gives you something better, or it eats up 10% more but it gives you like 25% better video quality?
It's the iPhone Air. starting to drown, which makes sense if you think about it. Like, this phone has a screen that's larger than the base iPhone, so that's going to need more power. It's got the A19 Pro chip, which, again, will probably need more power than the A19 in the base phone.
How does he run out of battery now in 1.5? What?
Pushing it, it's got less power to give with a smaller sized battery.
Okay, so this is Spotify. So again, no system specific benefits to the average user experience. I know obviously there are a lot of Spotify users on iPhone, but like you realize that there will be way more Apple Music users on iPhone than there are on Android. So that could be where, and I understand that I'm now asking him to basically have like a billion different tests, but I would just be appreciative if he swapped between certain apps, right? He could even include that in the same test. He could say, here's an hour of Safari browsing, here's an hour of Chrome browsing. On the Galaxy, he could even do that. Here's an hour of browsing on Safari or an iPhone, and here's an hour of browsing on the Samsung web browser. And then now here's an hour of both devices using Chrome. But guys, don't forget, Chrome on iPhone actually uses Apple's WebKit while it uses Blink on Android. So it's actually more Chromium full featured.
Topped off with titanium sides that aren't going to get rid of heat nearly as well as the aluminium that you get on all 3 other new iPhones.
Again, this is also wrong. The iPhone 17 base model, yes, it has aluminum side rails versus titanium, but they're such a small part of the overall like a surface area that's dissipating heat. The main reason why 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max are dissipating so much more heat is because they are unibody aluminum construction.
And, you know, the hotter the phone, the faster the battery depletes. And so it only takes until 7 hours, 18 minutes for the Air to die completely. That's a pretty early KO. And from this point, I'd say let's just fast forward this test till the end so we can get to the results. But I do just want to make clear, that is a very different result to what Apple was claiming for the Air. Apple said that this phone should have the same battery life as the iPhone 16 Pro, but
which would have less battery life than the 16 Pro Max. Again, Apple's battery testing is for video watching.
That phone should last longer than the iPhone 16, which in itself is already leagues ahead.
Not really. I mean, yes, it does have like a larger battery than the base 16 in a way, but it also has a faster, but not actually more efficient processor. And like it has a ProMotion screen. No, not really.
Of what the Air's just done. So maybe the
Again,
C1X
especially talking about your testing
that only the Air gets may give it some power efficiency gains when you're on cellular, but how much difference can that make? This test makes me...
I mean, they literally said it. They said that the C1X consumes 30% less power than the modem on the 16 Pros.
Very doubtful that the Air will actually give most people Pro levels of battery. Oh, there's the...
That was never Pro levels of battery life. It was just a certain level of battery.
iPhone 16 and then the iPhone 17, and after a large amount of time, the other phones do eventually follow suit. So 17 Pro goes onto the ESR Qi 2.2 wireless.
Oh God, can we please
charger
stop with the
and
advertising?
I don't think that's terrible battery life. It's about the upper end of what I expected, given how thin the thing is. It just really makes it tangible how much you are giving up to have a thin phone. And it pales in comparison to even 6th position, the iPhone 16, which managed to last a whole extra 2.5 hours, which means the iPhone 17 is... which puts the iPhone 17 in 5th position with 10 hours 28. And I'm glad to see that it is conclusively better than the 16s, but I gotta say, I did also expect that gap to be larger.
Okay, he doesn't test like the thing that I do most on my device, which is I surf the web, right? Like, do you guys all get all you do from social media? Like, do you not like read like an actual newspaper? Like my favorite, even though they do have some issues, like the New York Times, the Guardian, Der Spiegel here in Germany, like even like my 9 to 5 Mac, my Mac rumors, like rumors, I don't read them through like Twitter. Even if I get them, by the way, like that, this is also like a wrong way to look Twitter, right? You don't just scroll through Twitter. You find something, you click on it, you read the web page behind it. I don't quite understand what's happening.
The average difference in battery capacity
Did you just
between generations of iPhone.
Did you just
that's probably
leave
enough
the
of
screen
slack.
on and then occasionally swipe up and down? Because that's not Like, I mean, that kind of would actually benefit like Apple's always not always on, but like Apple's LTPO, like variable refresh rate algorithm.
It's getting a little weird in here.
But this is...
Let's flick over to some lunchtime Instagram doom scrolling. Now, one thing to pay attention to is if we look at current battery...
This is absolute brain rot behavior. Like, there's no reading here. There's no regular web browsing. Even the games he plays are like super low. Like, they're beyond low. Like, what did he test for, like, a game here, like, in the end? Like, was it, like, some dart games, or was that, like, a video?
It's a battery. Oh, there's the iPhone 6.
Yeah, like, really? You're not, like Doodle Jump and, like, Temple Run are, like, more demanding games. Fucking Angry Birds is more demanding. Like, the choices here are really baffling at this point. And again, I'm not saying that the iPhone still won. My iPhone... Even the one with the physical SIM card tray that has a smaller capacity outperformed the S25 Ultra. But I'm just asking, this is absolute, no wonder. This is an absolute garbage test. At that point, I would probably prefer to see like results for just video watching. Like, even like, did he watch even like a YouTube video for long? Or did he just watch like YouTube like... tall shorts? Like, I mean, he watched them in portrait mode. Like, he said he started with like
from my favorite gym.
Yeah, he was basically watching shorts in portrait mode.
And there's a pretty clear phone that I'm rooting for. This one.
But like, really? Like, there's no point at which you're just gonna watch like a landscape video like for like 20 minutes or so? You're just watching shorts in portrait mode? With all that garbage on screen covering up 60% of your content, what feels like?
The base iPhone 17. Because this guy had 100% remaining figure. Get that to what Apple was claiming for the Air. The battery life you get is not really saying their wireless. Revise the wording a little bit more to expected step, referring to the eSIM only models, which leaves the iPhone 17 Pro Max top of the pile with 13 hours to the minute, which is on one hand very impressive, and it's good to see the benchmark constantly being pushed out. But at the same time, this does reinforce my suspicion that the whole enormous leap claim was referring to the eSIM only models.
I mean, that would still only be like 5% more battery at that point, so I mean, would that really make such a big difference at that point?
In this test would have lasted approximately a whopping 13 hours 45, and that for anyone not getting
that an enormous leap then to you?
Those models, I'd revise the wording a little bit more to.
I also find it funny how he I believe he declared like the Vivo, like the DX200, like the best phone, but because clearly it's not getting traction in videos, like he only compared it to the S25 Ultra. Like, there are Android flagships with over 6,000 milliampere hours. It would be cool to see them actually compared. And we saw, by the way, like battery life techs by like the tech chap, right? Now, I believe he only has thus far the one for the iPhone.
Don't do it.
Family.
Different apps, different.
Right. So this is just the 17 family, but yeah, for him the 17 and 17 Air did not show the same huge difference. And yeah, his testing shows lower numbers because he uses them at higher brightness levels and whatever. So that's completely fine. If it's a standardized test, that's all good. But you shouldn't compare the numbers to what Mrwhosetheboss is saying. That's not the point. Also, he is using the eSIM
settings.
The device with the physical SIM card tray.
eSIMs in their test as well, and also it's more about.
And it's half an hour better. So again, you can argue, is it better enough? I would argue it absolutely is, given that the 16 Pro Max absolutely is a full day phone for the vast majority of people. This is now even better, and it charges up faster when you need a charge. Thanks to better cooling, it should also even work better with like wireless battery banks, right? Wireless charging battery banks. So again, these numbers to me make way more sense. Just the Air being still close to the 17 because it just works with more efficient components. His testing includes an amount of 5G testing. I think that's very important because usually when you're comparing on Wi-Fi only has to, usually when you're using a device Wi-Fi only, that means you're using it at home or at work where you might still be close to a charging outlet. If you're using on 5G, it's obviously much more likely that you're away from a charger. So again, this test, in my opinion, is better. Plus, again, if you add like 5% more to this, you would obviously get like another, 20 minutes or so. So yeah, good testing. By, I guess, passable testing by Mrwhosetheboss and good testing, in my opinion, by the tech chap. But going back to Mrwhosetheboss, actually, let's see how his camera comparison fares, because guys, again, you can go to my Discord and check out my first impressions of cameras on my iPhone. I did some mistakes, unfortunately, by not standardizing the photographic styles between my 17 Pro Max and my 15 Pro Max, and unfortunately I cannot retroactively adjust my photographic style on my 17 Pro Max, on my 15 Pro Max. I can on my 17 Pro Max. So I'll have to go out again sometime during the week, find myself some nice weather, even though we are now predicted to get like a week of pretty cold, bad weather. So I'll try to still find some good spot for a camera comparison.
In 17 Pro Max, this is the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. I have taken and analyzed over 500 photos and videos on each.
Massive difference in HDR handling. This is starting to darken him up, while this one, well, maybe, no, actually the sky here is more blown out. So you are getting more detail, better colors, better skin colors, better nature colors, massive difference in video quality.
To find out which of these cameras would I want to use.
So this is why I always say, honestly, when it comes to good lighting conditions, I do not care that much about stills photography comparisons, at least on like decent cameras. Like I would exclude like the 3x telephoto that Samsung uses, that garbage or super old 10 megapixel sensor or whatever. But like anything that's like even over 1 by 3 inches, that to me is absolutely fine in very good lighting. Video is the one scenario, and selfies are the two scenarios that are definitively better on iPhone, even in good lighting conditions, over most competition. But again, maybe some niche Chinese device does it better in some ways. But then again, at that point, sure, you might give them some camera props, but are those people actually using those devices? Are those people actually appreciating the software? Are the people actually appreciating app optimization? No.
So let's start with the front camera. Okay, so this is front camera footage taken on both phones, and actually right off the bat, massive difference. So you can see
so there's actually a sky here. This is one big blob.
This new front camera on the iPhone is quite a bit wider, so you're not just seeing my face and shoulders like you are on the Samsung, but also a little bit more of the scene on either side. But most of all, look at this. It's just completely blown out on the Samsung, but you can see so much more of the sky details on the iPhone. What about stabilization? So this is meant to be one of the key things that's improved with the iPhone camera this time. And to be honest, when you're just walking around, you can't really tell the difference. They're both pretty fantastic. If I start running, ooh, yeah, okay, so I'd say the iPhone creeps in front, but there's still not a massive amount in it.
Okay, so this is something that he cannot tell while he is running, but we can tell, right? Like, did he not watch the video? Like, I don't care what he says in the moment that he sees on the screen. The main difference is what we are seeing, obviously, on the phone.
Both very serviceable at doing this. And I'm out of breath.
Really?
So, yeah, the iPhone 17 Pro's front camera experience is probably the best I've ever used on a phone. And it's partly wideness and stabilization. It's partly how well it works on third-party social media apps. But also this new ability to rotate the camera to landscape without even needing to flip the phone.
Also quality. This is just a way larger sensor to capture more detail.
Which means when I want to take landscape video on my iPhone, I can do so while still holding the phone upright, so that my eyes are looking at the middle of the screen. But if I wanted to take that same video on the Samsung, then my eyes are looking at the screen, but the camera is all the way over here. So you notice the lack of eye contact. And when it comes to photos, Apple's image processing seems to have finally stabilized. You know, older iPhones used to make your skin look really rough.
So this is what he looks a little bit warmer here. I would actually venture to say he looks a little bit too warm, but this is why the iPhone has photographic style. So my default solution is rich and cool. And it actually still allows me to change that afterwards because Apple captures so much detail. Apple also has Pro RAW. While yes, the Galaxy has Expert RAW, it's not as good and not as easily integrated with all the editing stuff as Pro RAW is on iPhone. Plus iPhone by detail, now this is selfie stuff, but then when we look at the back camera, we also now have the difference between the iPhone being by default 24 megapixels. And while yes, you can force the Galaxy to shoot in 50 megapixels or even 200 megapixels, now you will see even worse HDR handling. It will take longer to take the image and process the image.
Not anymore. They used to have this weirdly warm tinge. Not anymore. The skin tone and color of these iPhone 17 shots is, well, I mean, it's a little boring compared to Samsung's vibrancy, but it is more technically correct. So Apple can take the overall win in
so
front
apparently
cameras.
he likes his skin tone more here. I guess it looks more like precise to what we are seeing in this video, while the Galaxy is a little bit more grayish, though I'm not sure if that is like his supernatural skin tone or if it's not helped by a little bit of like the studio lighting here.
But what about zoom? Because while Apple has upgraded their zoom this time around to this 4x optical zoom camera that has a 48 megapixel resolution, when I saw that, all I could think was, yeah, but Samsung's should still be better with its 5x.
No, and that's the problem if you're focusing on like landscape photography, right? For most people who are like using the zoom to like take photos of their pets and whatever, it's way better to have 4x. Again, I still maintain that 3.5x is probably the most perfect one. That's, of course, if your baseline is a 24mm sensor.
Zoom camera that is 50 megapixel. So we found a massive pack of deer really far away from us. Let's zoom all the way in. And yeah, to be honest, I think Samsung's photo is a mile better here. This is a 40 times zoom.
Nope, there's a lot of sharpening here.
And while there isn't actually a massive difference in terms of the information being captured, it's Samsung's process.
We haven't seen you in a while. I purchased 17 Pro, but after like 5 to 7 hours, the phone started getting extreme overheating issues, like extreme. Well, are you using it while still setting it up? Are you like downloading apps, all your content? Are you charging it? That's normal for the first few days. My phone is now cold as ice, basically, because aluminum dissipates that heat. But when it was originally setting it up, I left it on the charger. It actually told me, oh, I wouldn't be charging beyond 80% because of heat. But again, it was downloading like 50 apps and installing them. It was downloading my 25 gigabytes of photos. It was handling all my data. It was indexing all that stuff. That's normal for the first day. You cannot tell those things for at least 48 hours. More like, honestly, more like 96.
It's the decision to crank up the contrast and add extra sharpening that in this case is a total game changer, but it isn't always. Let's try something. Okay.
And again, this is something that you can compensate for on the iPhone by using, for example, Pro RAW pretty easily.
I'm going to flash 2 photos on screen quickly. Now, you've got a second. Which of these is better? Okay, so there's a decent chance that you, like me, initially sided with this one because, I mean, contrast and sharpness are like the first things your brain registers. This is Samsung's shot, but now look a little closer. And can you start to realize how that contrast has also come at the cost of the natural color and texture of the animals? Yeah. Here's another example. I think Samsung is more immediately eye-grabbing on first glance, but then you start to copy circuit in.
In this case, I would actually say the iPhone was immediate. Yeah, but this is also the problem if you zoom in this far. I don't want photos that are this far zoomed in. If you actually talk to regular photographers, they don't really like using like 20x zooms or whatever. They like to just have the detail in the image. That's why they prefer like a large, high-resolution native image. And then obviously they want some zoom play. But because of how that affects like aperture stuff and focal length, usually most times you would not really go beyond at least 10x, but then again, for 10x on a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, you have a much, much larger sensor to back that up with. ATW, no, after complete setup, I contacted Apple Store. They said it's normal for 3 or 4 days after setting it up. Yeah, they're correct. It's not a complete setup. Believe me, it's still doing way more than you think. Like, for example, Spotlight search indexing for all your photos. Even for settings, right? My Spotlight search up until like this afternoon wouldn't show me like settings portions and stuff like that, even though you are supposed to be able to search for settings inside Spotlight search.
I'm pretty 50-50 between the two. You could literally edit either one of these and turn them into the other, and just for fun,
But then again, the iPhone clearly at this point looks better.
that. And the same is true for Zoom video. So if you were at a concert or spying on a family of ducks.
Yeah, this is my problem though. Like, these are the scenarios where you do far off zoom, and I honestly, this is similar to why I critiqued his battery test. It just doesn't represent my usage. Believe me, I'm a lot on social media, but while I do doom scroll on Twitter and whatever, I do like my biggest social media is YouTube, where I watch like big videos. Sometimes some of them are medical, some of them are tech stuff, some of them are news stuff, and I keep like music, like YouTube videos even playing as like podcasts in the background. I listen to podcasts a lot while I walk and while I work out. I listen to music, and then when I sit down and like do it, I don't do all my stuff through social media. I primarily search go through the web, or even when I read articles, I go to like a dedicated app, like New York Times app.
Then I can't even see a slight difference in information being captured here at 10 times zoom. It's just more sharpness and more contrast on Samsung.
No,
which
KSP, hello to you, man, guys. I'm sorry, I know I promised you videos today, and you've been pretty excited on Discord, so, but yeah, this is going to be a longer stream, so we are about an hour and 45 minutes in, so please hit the like button, do all the YouTube jazz, again, super chat, super stickers, channel memberships, Patreon subscriptions, however you choose to support me, all of it is appreciated. Of course, I know the guys that are currently here are mostly in the Discord. I'm not sure if you are ATW. You know what? I'm just gonna be a little obnoxious and just throw the Discord link back into the live chat. Invite members. Edit invite link. Never expires. Save. Copy link. Just gonna edit here. My channel live. Jesus Christ, that takes quite a lot of... Wait, why did my video stop processing? What's happening? No, it still shows me... Wait, what's wrong with my YouTube? The YouTube actually on my... Okay, it's all working, thank God. That's why KSP is saying, sorry I'm late. Orange, oh, true. You did get the orange Pro. How is that performing for you? Here's my deep blue again. I'm gonna make myself, I think you can see everything here, right? So that's the deep blue. That's the one with the blue tech woven case. I'm actually really liking the tech woven case. And here are my AirPods Pro 3. I actually took the lanyard loop from my AirPods Pro 2 because I forgot to order a new one. And while it is slightly used up here, I'm not sure if I'm actually get a new one. I think my mom will just be fine with my AirPods Pro 2 the way they are here. One thing that I will comment on, the case of the AirPods Pro 3 is way lighter than the one on the AirPods Pro 2, or at least it's significantly less dense. So there's very clearly a battery capacity reduction of the case happening, and I don't like it. This case, the AirPods Pro 2 case, feels more premium to me because it's heavier. But then in everything else, the AirPods Pro 3 have way better active noise cancellation. In my opinion, they have more natural sound for the things I listen to, which are things like podcasts. I know some people have complained that the bass response is not quite correct. I've listened to like some hip hop stuff, very little that I listen to. I'm a very white boy, I guess. But even though like a ton of people like hip hop, I used to love hip hop when I was a teen, just not, I guess, less at this point. Is the tech woven worth it? It depends. I'm not sure if it's worth it. Like here in Europe, it's like $70, so that's 60 American bucks, the original price, plus the value added tax and everything. I'm not sure if it's worth to everyone, but I really like it. So yeah. And AATW also got the orange one, but you didn't like the tech woven. Well, again, nobody's forced to be getting it. I'm just giving my own impressions. So, yeah, okay, good. My stream seems to be working. I don't know. I got really scared because it showed me like a view count and everything for a second. Which it would usually not like the live viewer count, but like the overall one, and I was like, wait, that should only show up after the video has been has finished airing. So yeah. But yeah, guys, let me know what your experience is. I mean, ATW, you let us know that your device got very hot. Again, it is doing way more than you think. My recommendation is honestly just let it sit, charge it, maybe even charge it slowly, like with a 20-watt charger or something like that. Let it stay overnight, 12 hours or so. After that, most of those issues should be fixed. My big issue, my only issue, and it's not a real world issue, it's more of a technical one, is that I cannot get my phone to get over 3,800 points in Geekbench single core and over 10,000 points in multi-core. So I end up with like 3,780 and like 9,800 in single core and multi-core respectively. Now, I did turn off airplane mode and stuff like that, so and I did turn off adaptive power mode, so I'm not sure if maybe I have like kind of lost in the silicon lottery, or if I just or if the device is still doing things in the background that prevent it from accessing its maximum performance. Also, just for these photos, just gonna tell you, you can like just increase default contrast capture on the iPhone too, so you wouldn't even have to like edit those photos afterwards.
Sometimes makes it better, sometimes makes it worse. I do think it's a pro that the iPhone zoom slider is smoother and it's more responsive, but then again, Samsung's screen is brighter in broad daylight, and that is just...
It's really not. Like, I know it has a low reflectivity, but this is 3,000 nits. This maxes out at like 1,400. No, sorry. Cameras don't do justice to portrait colors of the 17 Pros. You mean like selfies, or what do you mean? Like cameras, or are you saying like other screens don't do justice to how good the photos actually are?
Honestly, give me either of these for zoom and I will be very happy. But now that we've touched on...
Again, I like, look, we are 3.5 minutes into the video, and somehow we've talked half of the time about zooming, right? Not even like important zooms, like how good is it actually at 4x and 5x, but we went way beyond that, right? And like the examples here given, like, oh, okay, you want to capture an image of the animal, but that's not really how most zoomed photos even are. Zoomed photos are like, oh, here's like you with great portrait effect without actually having to turn on portrait mode or something like that. Like, it's not really that for most people. Like for kids, I would actually like for people with kids, yeah, you're probably like shooting like school stuff with like school theater stuff, school sports events. Yeah, at that point you're using a lot of Zoom, but that's a different discussion. Mark is the only YouTuber who remembers their live viewers and subscribers. That's what brings me to watch your streams on a daily basis. Hats off. Well, I'll be 100% honest. I have a small community. Again, we started off here as like as a drama channel. At that point, I had a lot more viewers here. I purged a lot of the community. We kept a lot of the subscriber count, so I'm not sure if some of it is like, if it's botted, it's not by me. Like, I will never pay for a bot, just like I would never pay for, like, you guys, like, guys, because I've heard like that accusation from somebody like I blocked like recently, and like I commented on it like 3 videos ago or something like that. If I were to pay for bots, do you think that I would have 18 or 15 followers on Twitter? Twitter. It's so easy to gain followers on Twitter, but just like I think it costs like what, $2 to get like 1,000 followers on Twitter. Like half of my even of my 15 followers right now are like bot accounts, but it's not just I botted them. That's just what Twitter is these days. But like, yeah, like it helps that the community is relatively small, so it feels much more personal. I of course know all the guys who are coming in and out of the Discord. I know all of the guys who somewhere starting around, I think that's when you joined, right, ATW, like around the M4 presentation, not the M4 iPad Pro, but the M4 MacBook Pros, M4 iMacs, Mac Minis. That's when the first time when I remember you watching me. That's when we had a lot more concurrent viewers at that time too. So the YouTube algorithm punished me since then for not doing very regular streams, unfortunately. But yeah, it absolutely has its benefits to be in a smaller community in that regard. It's more personal, it's much more involved directly between me and you. So yeah, thank you so much. And I do put work in at least trying to remember all of you. So whenever I forget someone, it's really just because there's only so much capacity in my brain.
I do just want to talk about video in general, because a few generations ago, this was a very easy thing to draw conclusions on. The iPhone just used to capture this whole extra layer of detail, but that's
that's what it's doing here.
Not really the case anymore. Like, this is a 4K clip taken on the ultra-wide cameras, and even though we are very far out, you can still fairly clearly see what this chimp is up to on both.
Wait, are you really kidding me? That's literally extra real detail. That isn't even sharpening.
Now, if we want to see clearer, we can switch over to the main 1x camera. But again, there isn't a detail difference at all. The only thing...
Really? Is there not? Do you not see the noise here?
That I can notice, and you will see this throughout the comparison in all areas, is Samsung just isn't as consistent when it comes to color. Because have a look at the greenery in this shot, the trees and the grass, and see how much it changes as we move between the main camera and the ultra-wide. Or here, if we take some slow...
This is one thing that I'm worried about, and it's not specifically because we're talking about Samsung, but because Apple is rumored to be adopting a Samsung-made sensor for either their, I think for their ultra-wide camera, it's supposed to be, and it's supposedly like a multi-stacked sensor and everything. And I just hope that whatever Apple's algorithms are doing, they will allow for the same color consistency in both stills and video as we do have right now between all Sony-made sensors. I absolutely trust Apple to achieve that, but it's still something that we should keep in mind.
No, it's very detailed.
Samsung actually does this, right? Like their main camera is their own, like what, HP2 200 megapixel 1/1.3 inch sensor. Then I believe basically all other sensors are super small, cheap Sony sensors. They've been like refurbishing for years. So you see some of the inconsistency born from that. I hope Apple doesn't repeat that.
Phones. It's just, look at all the animals on this merry-go-round. Can you see how Samsung's shot is quite overexposed, whereas the iPhone 17 Pro has handled it? And yeah, don't look at me. The high-level summary, though, is unless you have niche uses, like wanting to do extreme color grading stuff, like these are both really nice shots of some really nice parkour. These phones are so good now that we actually use both iPhones and Samsungs for different types of shots in our own videos. We use iPhones for most of the sections that are focused on me, just because of the reliability of the skin tones. But then we use Samsung for recording most of the time lapses of products, because this phone shoots in 8K resolution, which gives you a lot more room after you've shot to be able to...
Okay, so in perfect lighting conditions and a direct studio light next to them, so yeah. But there's such a huge difference. Like, look at the level of detail in his beard. Like, look at even like the texture. This is like a Philips, not a Philips, a Dyson like air filter, right? Or air humidifier or air heater. It depends. They all look the same. I think this might actually be the most expensive model that does all of
to zoom in on the specific bits that you want to talk about. It's actually kind of sad that in 2025, the maxed out Pro iPhones still can't shoot 8K. Now, one of the other things that Apple said is that the iPhone 17 Pros should have next generation portrait mode. And to be honest, I feel like I've heard this.
But it's not happening as much as it happened in the last video, so I really don't know. It's whatever I'm doing, I'm definitely doing better than in my last video where I had my mic issue. So I'm definitely way less stressed than I got by the end of the last video. But still not great to see the microphone turn red. And again, it's not turning off, so it's not like a big power issue or something.
It's like 6 times at this point, so I was expecting this to be a bit of a nothing upgrade, but I can actually tell the difference. So both phones take 12 megapixel portrait shots at 2 times magnification, but the iPhone's 12 megapixel shots are substantially more detailed. I mean, just have a look here how every bit of the texture on my shirt has been preserved here. It's also the more color consistent.
And this is actual detail, right? You can see that even from the bird. And this is why, like, people made even fun of, like, Apple's, or I forget what was it called? Does any of you guys remember, like, the mode that, like, it was for medium light, not for low light scenarios, and they showed it off specifically with, like, good sweaters, with, like, woven materials, and yeah, this is clear, and this is in great lighting condition, but obviously Apple making different algorithms for low light, for great lighting, for medium lighting condition, now that they have even more, like, better computational photography, just from how much better their ISPs are, how much faster their processors are, they have more RAM, everything. Obviously, all of this is like coming home to roost. This is a multi-generational difference. If you told me this was a shot from an iPhone 13 Pro Max with a 12 megapixel camera to a 16 Pro Max, I would believe you, right?
Camera. Like, can you see how Samsung's added a pretty strong blue hue to my shirt, which did not exist in reality? And I want to stress, Samsung being more colorful.
Now that I'm actually seeing more of his face throughout the images, maybe I just forgot what he looked, but Samsung is making him look more grayish in the face than he definitely is.
Being more colorful does not always make its photos worse. Like, even though the accuracy of the iPhone is useful, it can also be kind
Again, this is, you can adjust this completely afterwards on the iPhone, and it's not like a filter on top. It's actually impacting the photographic computational pipeline. You can choose this to make this warmer without actually, like, destroying the underlying data. So this absolutely needs to be acknowledged, because for as much stuff as people keep pointing out new AI feature garbage and things like that, this absolutely cannot be forgotten. The work that Apple has been doing with photographic styles now consistently, and has improved on it ever since its introduction, by making them editable later on. I just always find it weird how that's not mentioned.
Like, if you ask me which of these 2 photos I would rather post somewhere, it would be the Samsung. But if I were to recommend one of these phones for taking portraits, it would have to be the one that has better fundamentals.
I mean, like, come on, like, this image, there's not even a comparison. Like, we can argue about prior photos if he looks a little bit too warm in the face, but like here he looks actually gray, like it just robbed him of his natural brown, actually pretty beautiful skin tone. Like, that's what people pay for that skin tone. Like, when you're white and you're running to the tanning saloon and shit like that, yeah, that's literally, like, this is something that Google has talked about on stage, and like better capturing the skin tone of non-white people. And this is obviously not something that maybe a Korean brand cares about as much.
And that is the iPhone. The detail difference is substantial, and it also feels like Apple.
And again, it's not even for the lack of sharpening here, right? So this is actual detail, while Samsung captured less detail, and on top of it, put on a weird over sharpening where you can see, because it reflected the light here, right? It thought that, oh, I'm actually working here with like more metal on the side. So it made up this completely weird texture. And then it made up the texture of the shirt completely. It added like noise here, because it clearly wasn't able to like work with the shadow.
Caught up with the one thing that Samsung really had them on: edge detection. This is something that you can...
Again, he was the only reviewer to always find that Samsung had better edge detection. Like, I have no idea how.
Hell, Apple has worked on this generation specifically, because Samsung used to be noticeably ahead.
Again, and in this shot, the iPhone 12 shoots great portrait photos. Like, this is not a challenging situation. There's like no open armpit. There's no handbag with like a little bit of a hole. that would show problems in portrait. This is pretty straightforward. The only difference you would get here is potentially around some smaller hairs, but even that can be a little bit impacted by like, look, he has like no cloud right over his hair here. He's a little bit of a cloud just from the slightly different angle. Yeah, so no, this is not actually a challenging photo. This is a much better portrait, and of course the iPhone has like the advantage of shooting automatic portraits because of just so much data that's included. Even in every 24 megapixel image, that's still in many cases size competitive with Samsung's 12 megapixel images. So yeah, this is just a better photo, but it's not because it's a more challenging portrait mode situation.
Now it's starting to feel like the iPhone is just as hard to catch out. And that's both for humans.
Where would even be the issue here for edge detection? Like 2 or 3 hairs or something like that.
But also animals, like shockingly well. Animals that I can't imagine Apple and Samsung have sat there training their camera models on. But it's just impressive. It's pretty close to a DSLR quality background blur effect. Normal photos are kind of the same story too. The vast majority of the time you will look at what both phones take and you will think those are both 6 shots. And so for a casual user, it doesn't really matter. Just pick the one whose style you prefer more. So that's the iPhone's more.
And again, you can brighten this up before that. As over the years, people have said that the iPhone has worse HDR handling because it does this more contrasty stuff. Clearly, there's some detail lost here in those shadows. You can bring this up. This is probably an image that I would say Samsung handled overall a little bit better, though I do like how the sky looks more on the iPhone. So that's clearly a little bit more of what the iPhone focused on. But yeah, you can also see that like he's not giving points. At this point, we're like 4 or 5 categories in and there are no points like there were in the past.
Look, or Samsung's brighter, more vibrant one. But if we are getting out the magnifying glasses and analyzing, then just like with portraits, when you're taking 1x normal photos on your main camera, then yeah, the iPhone does pretty consistently get more detail in your shots than Samsung does. I mean, it's essentially just the fact that by default...
Yeah, and you can even see like, this is not really lens flaring, but clearly the light here confused the Galaxy image. This is something that iPhones have been more known for. And you can argue maybe that it's still something they're more known for than like some of the Chinese Ultra devices. But overall, yeah, this is a way, way better image.
Apple is shooting in 24 megapixel compared to Samsung's 12. So if we crop into this thing's butt, then you can see more of the wood grain on Apple. And it does that while shooting faster too. Not by a mile like it used to, it's pretty close now, but look at this shot. This flamingo here was just about to take off. And can you see how the iPhone has practically frozen each drop of water on the spot? Whereas on Samsung, there's a very slight drift from the fact that it's taking just a little bit of extra time to capture. And then, as with every single other mode, skin tones are also more predictable. There's no weird blue tinges like you can see on the Samsung here.
And this is also why I try to tell you, when people over the years have notoriously praised Pixel for this cooler tone, that's because it also handled contrast better, skin tones better. But now that it does not have those advantages, now the fact that all the images it's taking are consistently too cool is a disadvantage. And the same is happening on Samsung. Just as when Apple struggled more with like objective image quality and their computational photography pipeline compensated for that with a warmer image, that's also gone now too.
Enjoyed having dinner and interacting, and so the other day I actually took these out with me to try some macro photos. And Apple is able to focus closer, which is, I suppose, technically the job of a macro camera, but Samsung makes the food look so damn appetizing.
I have no idea what he even is talking about. He could have just, like, he understands the iPhone could have been like a centimeter further away and it would have captured this shot, right?
Prefer Samsung's processing for these shots.
Okay, there's an incredibly loud...
You can increase all that contrast and it will directly impact the computational photography pipeline. This is not an objective advantage for Samsung. I'm not talking about filters. He should know that. It's his job.
Playing over there. So, let's turn the cameras around.
Like even my cousin, who's not tech savvy at all, but she loves taking photos. She has 3 kids and everything. She is like the head of a kindergarten, right? A headmaster of a kindergarten, right? I guess. And like she loves taking photos. It's part of her job. It's part of her persona. It's part of her personal life, right? And whenever she uses her 16 Pro Max, she constantly is tweaking around with photographic styles a little bit. So why is he not mentioning that after the billion AI mentions that he did for all the other comparisons? Now I don't know. Am I keeping the DSR case or am I returning it? I'm keeping it. It's for now in my handbag. Unfortunately, I forgot it. When the video is playing, the media volume is higher than your mic volume. Oh, I'll tune him down a little bit. Thank you, KSB.
Let's see which of these phones is actually better able to remove that noise. So this is the iPhone.
That's because
Now I'm
the
moving over to
reason
Samsung.
why I'm less loud than I usually am. It's because I'll have to change the gain on the microphone. I'll just go through the Shure app later on. But I'm less close to the microphone because now I'm afraid of hitting the mute button. And my problem is I'm afraid if I make him too quiet, then you won't be able to hear him.
So listen to the background noise. How clearly can you hear my voice, and how much does that sound disappear?
So yeah, I do find that Samsung is usually better at getting rid of the background noises, but just also that something is usually lost in the quality of your voice while it...
Yeah, that's kind of what you can do with the iPhone too, if you get too aggressive. But also now you can actually you can record audio for your videos on the iPhone while connected to AirPods, and AirPods Pro 3 have some of the best microphones in the earbuds business, so...
It's doing so. And yes, the iPhone technically has one extra microphone, and yes, it has the whole audio mix feature set, but Samsung's actually been adding tons of stuff like this too, and...
Yeah, but you could have actually compared that stuff, not the complete default in the laziest mode. That's what I do on Discord. You should, you have an entire team to help you with this stuff.
I would say ultimately with audio, it is a bit of a toss-up. But
Thank you,
just
Casey.
generally, with
My
this
audio's
generation,
fine.
it does feel like Apple has really focused on ironing out their camera's weaknesses. Their zoom needed work. They've upgraded the zoom camera. The portrait mode had started falling behind. They've amped it up. I used to prefer Samsung selfies, but Apple's overhauled that experience entirely. But can Samsung turn the tables when things get dark?
No. 100% not.
No, not really. But there are a couple of exceptions. So when you're taking videos at night, I would say both phones struggle an equal amount at correctly exposing
Yeah, nah, that's not an equal amount, buddy.
the bright spots. Like, can you see how...
I mean, the iPhone smooths this out. This is this leaves the noise in, which the problem with low light noise, this is the problem with fake detail in good lighting condition versus smoothing or sharpening in low light. It's just it's not like the iPhone has no detail. Look, it's still preserved that structure, that texture over here, right? This one is just noise everywhere. So no, they're not struggling in the exact same way. Look at the light here, right? Where the iPhone has a very clearly defined understanding of that slightly red light. This bleeds out of there, so no.
The name of this crepe cafe is practically unreadable on both. Bit of a crepe image, to be honest. And when you look close at the brickwork, they're also similar. Samsung is a bit grainier.
I do prefer the Samsungs here a little bit, actually.
Apple is a bit smoothed out, but I wouldn't say either is better. The detail level is pretty much the same. Like if we zoom into this sign over here.
Again, these are also not really the most typical lighting conditions, what he's comparing here, but...
It's the same legibility, which I would say is a better indicator of information captured.
No, not really. I mean, readability is not... I know legibility, readability, we often focus on text because it's the easiest thing to analyze. Here, the iPhone actually did more smoothing out and a little bit of sharpening, but it's just not the same thing, at least not in my opinion. When in video capture, you need the color stability, you need the contrast stability, the dynamic range stability.
As opposed to sharpness or smoothness. But these are the key differences that I have noticed at night. One, Samsung's photos have better dynamic range than Apple's. Like this sign over here was super bright compared to the rest of the scene. Samsung could handle it,
make
the iPhone couldn't.
brighter,
Two, iPhone's portrait mode holds its quality, whereas Samsung's falls apart quite a bit more, with it losing a grip on the way that colors should be presented and getting a bit too noisy. And three, that the iPhone is actually better at zooming in too when it's dark. Bear in mind, with each of these things I'm saying, while I'm showing you one example, I have double, triple tested each finding, and consistently, Apple is better at producing natural detail, whereas the S25 Ultra starts to scramble in these low light situations. It forces itself to have detail, even if it has to invent it to get there. So to bring this all together, if we just for a second put put aside everything else about the rest of these phones, which of these two cameras would I choose and recommend more? I would say the iPhone. In my previous test, the iPhone 16 Pro Max just edged out the S25 Ultra, but now with the 17, I would say the gap has become significant. Now that doesn't mean that Android doesn't have great options. You know, Vivo is killing it. Oppo, these companies are both in this upper echelon.
Review them.
Xiaomi too, in some ways, but I think
Xiaomi's algorithms are still especially for Aaron, I actually would understand why he would dislike. Like I've seen like how Xiaomi handles like skin tones. It would probably look like garbage on him.
Samsung has to work on both color consistency and also detail in photos if they want to keep up with them. Oh, also, if you're wondering what I use to take that shot, it's literally my phone case. Because...
Okay, good. Now we're getting to the ads. So to finish this video off, we're gonna watch SuperSaf's camera comparison. SuperSaf, Jesus Christ. SuperSaf.
The iPhone 17 Pro Max.
Okay, it's a 21-minute video, so we're gonna speed this up. We're gonna watch this in 1440p. That way, maybe I can at least zoom in a little bit. And let's start.
Here, it's the best we have from Apple. How does it compare to the best from Samsung, the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra?
Okay, his microphone quality is very, very hollow. What's happening over there? Is he using one of the phones?
Well, let's put these head-to-head
Am I missing stereo data in his audio, or is his audio just bad?
SuperSaf style and find out. So let's
his audio is bad.
With the build and design, the iPhone is slightly larger compared to the S25 Ultra.
Oh, this is not a camera comparison. This is a head-to-head like specs comparison. Oh, that's disappointing. I thought he did like a camera comparison because
photographic styles that you have on the iPhone, which really...
This is why, like, SuperSaf, I'm not the biggest fan of SuperSaf, but at least he acknowledges more objective specs and features.
Let you dial in the colors of your picture.
Man, his microphone is absolute trash.
After you've taken them, although you can edit your images on the S25 Ultra.
Again, this is not an 18 megapixel sensor, it's a 24 megapixel sensor, but okay.
It's nowhere near the same as what you've got with
I actually didn't know that the Galaxy had such a bad aperture on the selfie camera.
That was on the iPhone. The S25 Ultra, on the other hand, with its additional telephoto camera, gives you a better zoom at 3 times.
Does it really? Is there really any big image difference? Like maybe the hair is a tiny bit sharper, but like anything you can shoot with 3x, you can really shoot with 4x. And it
also gives you better extended zoom in good light. I also prefer the ultra-wide camera on the S25 ultra-wide Ultra, especially in low light. And the S25 Ultra can also film at 8K from 3 of the rear-facing cameras. This is something that you don't have on any of the cameras of the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Now, overall, both of these have excellent cameras. This is something that you don't have on any of the cameras. Was the iPhone actually more detailed in this shot? It's 100% resolution. This is 50% resolution. So it's not actually more detailed. Like, look at this. The iPhone is objectively like it's sharper across the board. Like the image here is actually crap. Like it's super soft, and it's not like it focused on the wrong thing. It doesn't focus. What is it focusing on? Look, from the iPhone, everything from like that stick that fell down here, the branch, like to the leaves over here, the entire, like, what is he talking about? Like the grass itself too is also sharper on the iPhone. Pro Max. Now overall, both of these have...
What is the point then of 8K if it's not actually more detailed?
Once again, if you really want to see the detail differences, then check out that SuperSaf style camera comparison. Right, now moving on to performance. So the S25 Ultra
so did he do one, or is he just telling us to wait?
What's up, guys? Saf here on...
Oh, that's the one.
What's up, guys? Saf here on SuperSaf TV, and welcome to the SuperSaf style.
Okay, so... Okay. I thought I was going insane.
A camera comparison between the iPhone 17 Pro Max and the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. As always, we'll be testing out all aspects of the cameras. There will be chapters down below.
I will say I actually prefer the microphone quality on the S25 Ultra in this specific scenario, which is not usual for me.
Let's get to it. Now, as always, we're going to start off with photos from the primary cameras. And after taking hundreds of images, both take excellent photos.
Okay, the audio quality of him here is okay. So something was clearly wrong with his microphone on that video. video.
Some detail, great dynamic range. Now, as always, we do find that Samsung does opt for more vibrant, more contrasty images, whereas the iPhone generally goes for a more flat and a more neutral look. However, the iPhone does have the next generation of photographic styles, which I absolutely love. And this really allows you to dial in the look that you want. So if you did want something that's more vibrant, you can do that quite easily. And you can also do this after the fact.
Yeah.
And we've got high resolution cameras on both devices, 48 megapixels on the iPhone, 200 megapixels on the Samsung. But by default, the Samsung shoots at 12 megapixels, and by default, the iPhone shoots at 24 megapixels when you've got good lighting.
It's also an ever so slightly larger sensor.
So by default, we do get more resolution on the iPhone versus the Samsung, but you can easily switch to 50 megapixels on the Samsung.
Is it easily? What's the photo size comparison at that point? What's the image capture time, Saf?
Match the 48 on the iPhone, and you can see here that we do have lots of detail. The Samsung does appear to be sharper, and Samsung does apply some post-sharpening to their images, which in this instance does look good. And you can, of course, go all the way up to 200 megapixels, and that's going to give you a lot more detail compared to what you're going to get on the iPhone.
I agree. That one was definitely sharper on the Samsung with real detail. And here we see a lot more detail on the iPhone. You can also see that the actual lens flaring that we usually associate with iPhone is more pronounced here on the Galaxy, so it's clearly not a universal issue that's way worse on iPhone. Can they claim copyright on your stream, or does this come under fair use? This is fair use. Sometimes it will get flagged, but usually it gets flagged for weird reasons. It's not really consistent, and it's not really worth me worrying. Like 95% of my videos reacting to this stuff don't get flagged. I actually had a SuperSaf video flagged once, but usually, like, you have to think like fair use is about transforming content, right? And think about just how much longer I make the video, how much input I give to the methodology, to my own analysis of the photos, to my, even whenever I have this camera, to my actual own experience, how I keep chatting with you guys and getting your impressions. So yeah, it's absolutely fair use. If it ever gets claimed, it's absolutely not fair. But I usually don't fight it because the revenue that I get from an individual video is so small. So guys, if you are afraid of me being demonetized for copyright or whatever, it's not usually copyright that much. It's not like they actually have a copyright over this video. Like, it's not like they licensed it with the US Congress or the UK Parliament or whatever. But it's just like if I were to upload this exact video one-to-one with maybe me being like XQC style in the corner and doing like, that's crazy chat every 10 minutes, but not doing any actual transformative content, that would be bad. And that would be a clear copyright infringement or intellectual property right infringement, whatever it is. But no, most of my content is 100% clear on that.
The primary cameras both do very well generally, but I did find...
Wait, you cannot just leave this image. Like, look, the building is sharper, right? The night sky is less noisy. There is some color banding up here, right? But like, look at the lens flare here from the actual lamp, right? For the iPhone, that resulted in a tiny bit of flare right on the other side of the image, interestingly enough. On the Galaxy, just completely bled into like your main image. And look at the trees. Like the fact that on the iPhone, both the building and the trees are equally sharp is insane.
But I did find that the iPhone is sharper compared to the Samsung in low light. You can really see that in examples here and here. Yeah. And also I found that the iPhone...
So this is something that I hope Samsung will correct, not even with a larger sensor, but with a wider aperture. So in low light, even if their computational photography pipeline remains inferior to Apple, hopefully just getting more light onto the sensor will help.
Balance light better compared to the Samsung. Here you can see that although it's a dark environment, there is some light coming from the lamp, and the Samsung seems to have really brightened things up and overexposed it, whereas you've got much more of a balanced shot on the iPhone. Yep. Now, in this example, I think both are doing good, but the iPhone does have a cleaner image. And if you do go in at 200%, you can see some of that over-sharpening that you've got on bricks on the Samsung, whereas you have a cleaner result on the iPhone. And indoors, in extreme low light, once again, the iPhone with a cleaner image, whereas you do have lots of noise on the Samsung.
Whoa.
Oh, here you are again.
Hey, SuperSaf here, just reminding you that we are working on a detailed comparison. SuperSaf and hit.
Now, ultra-wide cameras, once again, both have excellent ultra-wide cameras.
I would actually say no. I would say neither of them have like truly excellent ultra wides. I would actually argue that probably the best ultra wide is like Sony's ultra wide, which is like what, a 1/1.56-inch sensor, or even a 1/1.3. But like a lot of the Chinese manufacturers actually are kind of neglecting their ultra wides and mostly improving their zooms, where they have like close to like 1/1.3-inch sensors and stuff like that, and then they have 1/2.75-inch ultra wides, which actually is a smaller sensor than Apple uses. But yeah, what I find is usually that the iPhone ultra wide shots are not super detailed. It's definitely better now on my 17 Pro Max than it was on my 15 Pro Max. But whatever sharpening Samsung does, I usually think that it makes sense for a sensor like the ultra wide that just doesn't capture that much data. Yeah.
Detail, and you can shoot at up to 48 megapixels or 50 megapixels from the ultra-wide cameras. Now, when we do go in 100%, the Samsung is definitely sharper compared to the iPhone. I do think this is some of that post-sharpening that Samsung has. If you look at those lines, they do have some of those signs of post-sharpening, but generally the images do look sharper, which I like.
Yeah.
We can also shoot macro images from the ultra-wide cameras of both devices, and these look absolutely stunning. You can focus in closer with the iPhone compared to that of the Samsung, as you can see here. And some of that post-sharpening that I mentioned on Samsung actually really looks good here on macro shots especially. Now, for low-light shots with the ultra-wide cameras, both generally tend to do good, but the Samsung I found is consistently sharper. And you can really notice
but this is the problem with just sharpness. Very clearly, you can see that some of the color banding that we saw on the main camera images, right? It just got a lot worse on Samsung. So it's clearly a difference. Like, I believe the S25 Ultra has a wider ultra-wide aperture, so it should, while the sensor sizes and resolutions are extremely similar, that I believe should make the main difference. I believe the iPhone has a f2.2 aperture, and I believe this is an f1.9, so this is exactly the reverse of the iPhone's aperture for its selfie camera, where it has a wider aperture of f1.9, while Samsung has the f2.2 aperture.
Good, but the Samsung I found is consistently sharper, and you can really notice that in particular.
But then again, like, some of these photos really shouldn't be like regular photos. They should be like night mode photos. And yeah, this image, for example, now Apple did actually what Samsung did, which is they have no contrast back there. So this really should be just a night mode image. But here the ultra wide camera clearly panicked, clearly overexposed him, while Samsung handled this better. Absolutely.
In this image, where the iPhone has really struggled to keep things sharp, whereas the Samsung is much cleaner. So for the ultra wide camera overall, I do prefer the Samsung. Now, one thing that I do have to mention, when it comes to low light photography, the iPhone is much easier to shoot compared to the Samsung.
Yeah.
The iPhone really brightens things up on screen, so it makes it much easier to compose your shot.
Yeah.
Whereas this can be very difficult on the Samsung because...
So this is why I have over time also asked him to be more detailed on how long a photo actually takes to capture
things up on screen.
So hold still for 2 seconds.
Makes it much easier to compose your
this
shot.
is a 4-second shot.
Whereas this can be very difficult.
Okay, so yeah, you can already see this is one thing about his methodology that I have criticized constantly. He shoots night mode photos, doesn't label them, he just calls it low light for a specific camera. And then he ignores the fact that this took 2 times to capture, 2 times longer to capture than the iPhone's image.
Because sometimes the screen is just completely black and you're shooting blind. Now let's look at the telephoto cameras. So we have a brand new telephoto camera on the iPhone, which gives you 4 times optical zoom, but the Samsung has 2 optical zoom cameras, 3 times as well as 5 times. Now, both devices can shoot at 2 times, giving you optical quality. This just goes into the middle part of the sensor, and both do very well.
Yeah, I mean, I dislike the term optical quality that Apple uses, but I guess it's kind of catching on.
But when we shoot at 3 times optical zoom, then you will get cleaner shots on the Samsung. You can really see this when we go in 200%. If you look at myself and also the text, it's cleaner on the Samsung because we're using the optical zoom camera versus what is essentially digital zoom on the iPhone from the primary camera. But when we go to...
What?
4 times zoom is what is essentially digital.
Oh, that's 3x. Yeah, but the iPhone looks better here. Like, am I wrong? Like, maybe there's a tiny bit more detail, but just the color processing is so different. Like, is it really, like, that much better here?
optical zoom on the iPhone from the primary camera.
Also, this would fall apart immediately once lighting got just a tiny bit worse. I guess there is a little bit more sharpness, but then again, with Samsung, you never know which part is over sharpened and which one
But
is
when we
just
go to 4 times zoom,
sharp.
this is when the optical zoom camera of the iPhone kicks in, so you're going to get a cleaner result.
Yeah, like in, this is worlds difference. And now let's look at 5x.
The Samsung between 3 to 5 times will still be using the 3 times optical zoom camera.
In good lighting conditions. In bad lighting conditions, it will actually mostly use the 1x.
So there is a bit of digital zoom involved here. So that means you're not going to get as clean results between around 4 to 4.9 times on the Samsung compared to the iPhone. Now, when we go to 5x zoom, then the Samsung's optical zoom camera kicks in.
And the iPhone looks better. Like, this isn't even like funny. Like, I really mean this. The iPhone just looks better across the board here.
Still using the optical zoom camera on the iPhone, which can give you optical zoom quality all the way up to 8 times. And you can see here that both are doing an excellent job.
But the iPhone looks better. Like, just the way it handled like contrast, shadows, it didn't over brighten anything. The camera clearly didn't panic and invent colors and fake detail and shit like that.
There is a slight difference in focal length because although both are 8 times, they do have different focal lengths for that 8 times.
Yeah, so I believe Samsung's 5X is actually 110. While Apple's 4X is 100 millimeters. So they're not actually as far, there's not that big of a difference
of what they perceive. But regardless, even
or
at
is it
10
115 on the Samsung or something?
I do think both are doing a very good job overall. If you look at the quality and the sharpness, both are excellent. Now, what about...
But skin tones, really, like, look, man, this is now what we've also discussed with Aaron. Like, come on.
Extended
you look better
now,
than
extended
this.
Zoom
You
is an
deserve
area
better
where
than
Samsung
this.
has a lot of experience, and this really shows because looking at this example at 20 really shows because
that effect around his hair clearly is not doing too well.
Looking at this example at 20 times zoom, the Samsung is much cleaner, and you can actually...
And again, yeah, and this does come from basically making up a lot of the detail at this point. And I don't need these kinds of 20x zooms. Like, don't get me wrong, I think over time Apple is likely to offer some kind of AI algorithm similar to what Samsung is doing, what Pixel is doing. But we know from the 5x image that wasn't really more detailed than the 4x, you know that this is just algorithmic detail. This is not real detail. This is AI detail.
Read the text that I'm holding up, whereas you can't on the iPhone. The iPhone can also now extend all the way up.
But you can see, by the way, like, you are, like look at this bullshit, right? Looking too close, like, yeah, clearly it just over sharpened the fuck out of the text.
To 40 times zoom, but once again, the Samsung just giving you a better result. I can clearly read the text here, whereas
again, yeah, for maybe for utility, I don't know what in real life I'm 40x zooming in where I need to read the text.
Can't on the iPhone. And this is something that I consistently found with lots of tests.
Yeah, and you can see, by the way, like, these are obviously not real letters, right? You know that, right? Just instinctively. You see the E is messed up, the curvature of the A is messed up, the C has like this weird mix of shadow and like bad build quality.
40 times zoom, the Samsung just better and cleaner compared to the iPhone. The Samsung can go up to 100 times. This is not something that I would really recommend using all the time, but hey, the option is there. And results can vary depending on what you're shooting. If you're shooting the moon, then you're going to get cleaner results. There's not really been a full moon recently, so I've not been able to test that.
But we had a blood moon here in Germany, but I unfortunately was busy during it.
It's in good light. What about in low light? Because the iPhone telephoto camera now has a larger sensor.
Which is about the same size as the telephoto on the Galaxy, the 5X, but don't forget from previous generations that the iPhone's previous 5X that had a smaller 12 megapixel sensor regularly won in medium and especially low light versus Samsung due to its better image stabilization and a better Apple algorithm for low light scenarios.
Optical zooms, then the iPhone is actually giving a much cleaner result.
Much
Even if we extend this all the way to around 20 times, then
and
once
you
again...
can see, by the way, just from how round this is, maybe it's not the sharpest thing ever, but it clearly didn't try to invent more detail, which actually previous iPhones tended to do more. But yeah, you can see it actually kind of elongated his beard. This is just a completely made up image at 20x.
And the iPhone, you can actually read the text here. The Samsung is really struggling. So although for extended zoom, you're going to get better results on the Samsung in good light, when it comes to low light, the telephoto camera is going to give you better results on the iPhone. Now let's look at one of my favorite favorite areas, and that is portraits. We'll start off with the primary cameras. I think both are doing an excellent job. I do prefer the colors on the Samsung because the blacks are much more accurate. Once again, you can tweak this on the iPhone with photographic styles if you'd like. Now, the iPhone does have an advantage where it takes portraits at 24 megapixels, and that is from the primary as well as the telephoto camera.
Yeah.
On the Samsung, however, we've got 12 megapixels, so you are going to get more resolution on the iPhone for portraits compared to the Samsung. Both devices also let you take portraits around 2 times, and both do very well. Once again, I do prefer the colors on the Samsung here. Now, when we get to 3 times, this is where the optical zoom camera of the Samsung kicks in, and you're going to get sharper results compared to the iPhone. So if we do go in 200% into both images, you can see at 3 times, you're going to get a sharper and cleaner result on the Samsung compared to the iPhone. But when you go to 4 times, then because the optical zoom camera of the iPhone kicks in, you're going to get a cleaner result on the iPhone.
Yeah, you can like, this is why, like, the difference though between like what result were you able to get from the 3x at this point versus the 5x. At this point, just focus on one, and hey, maybe you can even go crazy and give us like variable apertures on a 4x, or even variable zoom, like allow us to go from 3x with a large high resolution sensor to like 6 or 7x. But having this crappy 3x that really only works in great lighting conditions like under direct sun, that's just not really what you want in 2025.
This more clearly when we go in 100.
Like, at that point, like, what is even the point of comparing the 3x versus the 4x, right? You should just accept that you're just going to actually use the 4x here, and here you might occasionally switch between 3 and 5x.
However, I just have to say, when it comes to edges, both are amazing. Look at the wisp of my hair at the top.
Yeah.
That is very impressive.
Yeah, I agree with him here.
That both of these devices have done an amazing job. Now, my favorite for portraits is around 4 to 5 times, and here you can see that both are doing an amazing job. Dynamic range slightly better on the iPhone. You can see the shiny forehead that I have. The Samsung has struggled a little bit, whereas the iPhone has done a better job. But
this has nothing to do with the portrait. This is just image quality in general.
Speaking, both doing excellent for portraits.
Skin tone also more pleasing on the iPhone. But again, it's also something that you can still adjust with photographic styles.
Once again, those little white wisps of my hair have been detected on both devices. Very impressive portraits on both devices. Now, selfies. So we actually have...
Did he not give a winning point to who wins portraits?
A brand new camera system for the selfies on the iPhone.
Are they all afraid to just give Apple like an 8-2 win versus Samsung?
This is an 18 megapixel center stage camera.
It's a 24 megapixel camera that takes 18 megapixel images because it's a 1x1 square sensor and you take 4x3 photos.
Which, for the first time that I've seen, lets you take both portrait and landscape images without having to rotate your phone. And this is amazing. The first thing it gives you is very wide angle selfies. So you can see here that we can get way wider on the iPhone.
And you can see way better HDR, way better sharpness in the fore and background, way better detail handling. Like, and with HDR at this point, I mean the exposure of the face and the exposure of the sky and the exposure of the greenery.
This is the Samsung. I also provide the colors here on the iPhone. The new camera also has amazing dynamic range.
And less glare issues and better like color handling of the blacks and everything.
You've got lots of light coming in from the background, but the iPhone has balanced that so well, whereas the Samsung is struggling. Portraits from the selfie cameras, once again, both do a great job. Again, those wisps of my hair.
Here the iPhone will just be a lot better because it has a much larger sensor.
Honestly, one of the best candidates to test portraits on because of my gray hair. It always struggles with the background, but both of them are doing amazing. Now, with the iPhone, when you take portraits from the selfie camera, it actually gives you more of a cropped in look, but you can always just take a regular photo and then turn it into a portrait later on. And again, it does an amazing job. Low light selfies, I did prefer the iPhone. As you can see here, you've got a wider shot and it's cleaner.
Yeah, I mean, wider aperture, larger sensor, better low light algorithms in general. Yeah, of course, that one's going to win.
Compared to the Samsung. But when using the low light flash, I did prefer...
Useless, completely useless.
The Samsung.
I mean, both images are bad. That's my point, right? I do understand that sometimes the flash is good, but you should really like especially with like glasses too. Like, no, sorry, man. And like, you look like garbage in this image too.
I found that it gave you a sharper result. Now, low light selfies can be tricky because you're holding the camera so close to you, and any sort of little shakes in your hand
will you mention how much better it is than through iPhone?
Result in a blurry image. But here I do prefer the Samsung. Now, before we move on to videos, I want to talk about...
Oh my God, they really are not like like declaring clear winners. They're really afraid.
Some of the editing features that we have on both devices. Now, you heard me mention photographic styles.
Okay.
I love these on the iPhone, especially the fact that you can apply these after you've taken the images. There's nothing really to the same level that we have here on the Samsung.
That's correct.
But we have much better AI features when it comes to editing on the Samsung.
Which are not actual like editing detail, but okay.
Compared to the iPhone. So we do have cleanup on the iPhone.
Yeah, cleanup to me works perfectly fine for exactly this kind of stuff.
Which can work reasonably well in simple situations like removing this lamppost. But as soon as things get a little bit more complicated, the iPhone really struggles, whereas the Samsung is absolutely amazing. Just look at how it's completely reconstructed.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. That is one of the examples where I would actually say cleanup does need to be improved. And especially now on the Pro models that have 12 gigs of RAM, I do think they need a separate algorithm for it that's just larger in size.
It can literally reconstruct half your face if you have it covered.
Yeah,
and you also
that
have
I don't care about. That at this point has nothing to do with actual photography.
sketch to image. So if you want to draw a cat
don't
into
give
one
a
of your
fuck
photos,
about that. Also, I can do that with like Google services or ChatGPT.
you're going to be able to easily do that on the Samsung, whereas you can't do anything similar to.
And again, this still has like red eye bunny. Like what are you capturing here? Is this like a demonic bunny that's has attached itself to you and is haunting you and your family for generations?
This on the iPhone. Now, what about video? Well, you'll be pleased to know that both of these devices take excellent quality video. You can see some examples here. Even with HDR video, both do an amazing job. For low light situations where it is very tricky to shoot, I did find that the iPhone gave sharper and cleaner results, but the Samsung does have the ability to shoot 8K video, so you can get lots more detail on the Samsung when shooting video compared to the iPhone.
I don't see those details. That's the issue.
And now this also works on 3 of Samsung's cameras.
Yeah, again, look. Where's
Those
the
are the
extra
primary-
detail? Where's the proper focus
as well as
even?
the wide camera.
Like, look, was that like lost in some image compression stuff? Like, I mean, I can crank this up to like 4K, but I doubt it's
this
gonna.
also works on 3 of Samsung's cameras: the telephoto, the
Yeah, like, look, this is just bad. Like, you can see more detail here if you just zoom in on the iPhone. That's gonna give you a sharper image.
primary, as well as
And
the
this is
ultra-wide
great
camera.
lighting conditions, so this is something that becomes instantly useless in lower lighting conditions.
However, when shooting video in low light with the ultra-wide camera, I did prefer the iPhone. The Samsung does have a lot of
Yeah, and it still has this incredible, like, well, the iPhone does struggle more in low light with stuff like lens flaring. This purple hue, I hate it so much. Like, previous iPhones had that too, well, especially those with smaller sensors. Yeah, this is not great.
It is when you are walking with the ultra-wide camera in lower light. The iPhone does have some of this, but not to the extent that the Samsung has. And using the optical zoom cameras of both devices 4 times versus 5 times, I found that the Samsung was sharper, but the iPhone
I mean, it's what is sharpness to him?
does balance light better. You can see here that the Samsung has overexposed this area where we've got light
Like,
coming.
what do you mean sharpness? I see just literally just talking about the text that's clearly being like over sharpened, but like the actual
Whereas the iPhone has balance
detail across the board is just better on
that
iPhone.
much better. So overall, for low light video, I did prefer the iPhone. Now, from the front-facing cameras, the iPhone, once again, wider, but consistently, I also found that it had better dynamic range compared to the Samsung. And because of that new center stage camera and that square sensor that we've got on the iPhone, it means that stabilization is also much better. Look at this example. I'm so impressed with how stable the footage is on the iPhone. Look at the background. Things are super, super smooth. And it's not that the Samsung is doing a bad job. The iPhone is just better with stabilization. Now, this also continued onto the rear-facing cameras. So shooting at 4K on both cameras, I did find that the iPhone was more stable. But we do have the action mode and super steady on the Samsung. And applying this, it does initially use the ultra-wide camera. The Samsung, I found, does struggle to focus when you're using super steady.
Yeah, we've had that versus the 16 Pro comparison
as
too.
you can see here. And when we do use the stabilization modes on both devices at 1x, once again, the iPhone is more stable. Now,
I mean, that's not even stability. At this point, the entire image is breaking up on
cinematic
Samsung.
video, you saw the intro at the start, and honestly speaking, I think both were close. Neither of them were perfect. They were both struggling in certain situations. However, cinematic mode from the selfie cameras, I did find once again that the iPhone had better dynamic.
Yeah, well, that's because it has the 3D depth sensor and a much larger sensor to capture data. I went back in the stream to watch your reaction on ScratchGate. Well, thank you. What did you think of that?
Range. Now, The iPhone also has the ability to edit the blur and the point of focus in cinematic videos after the fact. This is something that you don't have on the Samsung. Touching on some of the pro video features on both devices, both can now shoot in log. This is a flat picture profile, which will allow you lots more flexibility in editing after the fact. But one thing that I did like on the Samsung when shooting log is that you can simply swipe up on a log video and it's gonna give you a color correction option. This is gonna use...
That's cool. I like that. I think Apple should include that. So that's absolutely valuable feedback. That's something that I wouldn't know because I don't interact with it. That's definitely cool. It's definitely not the same log quality as what it offers now with Apple Log 2 and everything, but still.
Samsung's default color correction. So if you are in a bit of a hurry and you really just want to get out something quickly, you're going to be able to do that quickly on the Samsung. The S25 Ultra also has Pro Video, which is going to allow you to control things like your ISO, your white balance.
You have a ton of free apps at this point. You have Final Cut Camera, you have Blackmagic, completely free apps, ad-free, everything. Just download them and yeah.
All from within the camera app. You're not going to need an external app for this. With the iPhone, you can do that with a third-party app, but it's not there by default. Both devices also have dual capture, so you can use the front-facing camera at the same time as the rear-facing camera. Both devices also have excellent slow motion, 4K 120 frames a second. You can see me here jumping around like a lunatic. I think both actually do really well. With the Samsung, you do have the option of shooting 4K 120 frames a second from the ultra-wide camera. This is not an option that you have on the iPhone.
Really? I didn't know that.
But the iPhone can shoot slow motion at 2x.
Not a major issue, that's pinpointing. Obviously, I wouldn't use mine without the case. Maybe you meant like nitpicking, but it may be more prominent in the blue. I guess I'll let you know about the blue in the long run, right?
Whereas you can't do this on the Samsung. Now for audio, well, this was a little bit tricky because we have some new AI features on both devices. On the Samsung, you have Audio Eraser. On the iPhone, you have Audio Mix. And once you've shot a video, you can actually go in and choose different options, such as in-frame, studio, and cinematic. Now, I tried to find what was the best in this very noisy situation and have a listen compared to the Samsung. So now testing the Audio Mix feature on the iPhone versus the Audio Eraser on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Let me know what you guys think and which one can cancel out the background noise more. There is a lot of sound in the background.
Okay, the overall voice quality is notably better on the iPhone, but maybe the Galaxy erases more of the background noise. But at that point, it just starts to feel completely artificial and hollow. It actually reminded me of that issue in the previous video of SuperSaf that we accidentally opened.
With all of these cars. So
this sounds like a robot. Also, the video quality on these is just so fucking different. This is like 2 generations of difference in terms of sharpness.
Real challenge, but let's see which one comes out on top.
Yeah, the iPhone's clearly better.
Now, you guys can let me know what you think, but overall, I did find that the Samsung was cleaner. The iPhone...
What? That hollow mechanical sound, that garbled sound, just because it erased more from the background, that's cleaner for you? Am I insane?
Can sound a bit tinny when using some of these modes.
A tiny bit teeny? Are you kidding me? Is that why this is the last section? Is that to throw Samsung a completely artificial bone?
Now, to conclude, I think both of these have excellent cameras.
Oh no, come on. One of those is clearly better.
Overall, some of the best that you're going to find out there. And honestly speaking, I wouldn't mind using either of these as my...
But there has to be a winner, right?
...cameras on the day-to-day. Of course, you have some advantages and disadvantages. You have a better selfie camera overall on the iPhone, especially with that new center stage functionality. You have photographic styles, which really allow you to dial in the look that you like, even after you've taken your images. Overall, you have better low light performance on the iPhone, especially when it comes to the primary and the telephoto camera. And you also have excellent video with better stabilization overall compared to the S25 Ultra.
So now, in like 80 to 90% of scenarios, the iPhone is going to be better.
The S25 Ultra, on the other hand...
I heard a review about TechVoven complaining about stitch quality around camera control. Can you have a look after this video? Can you send it in Discord? Because I did want to wrap it up. I mean, I do still need content for future videos and for Discord in general. So if you just send it to me there, I'll check it out. Also, I might comment on it afterwards.
Has that dedicated 3x zoom camera, so it's going to give you more versatility when it comes to portraits. It also has better extended zoom in good light. It has 8K video from 3 cameras now.
Again, he has not done a single 8K comparison that actually shows more detail.
And it has some of the best editing features that you've got out there. That's what I think.
Oh, yeah, wow, that one kind of blew my mind. Jesus, I hate this AI crap so much for fucking out. Like the reason why iPhone focuses on things like natural photos, it's not just because the iPhone, like, natural photo is like there's some value in just nature. There's some value in the real world, right? Like, you can adjust it a little bit, 5% warmer, 5% more contrasty. That's nothing bad. You can, of course, even edit it even more with like black and white and shit like that for later on. But like all of these AI features, especially given that the iPhone has access to so many AI apps that do all the same stuff, often better because they're then directly Google stuff and whatever. Like, I don't know. It just feels weird for me to be giving out points for this.
Anyway, what do you guys think? Definitely drop me a
Okay, so he clearly refused to actually make a statement on who won. So at least Aaron from Mrwhosetheboss tried that, but so I guess somebody's really liking that comparison, by the way, like that iPhone 17 Pro Max versus S25 Ultra camera gaming, right? It's that exact thumbnail thing from SuperSaf. Well, but I mean, YouTubers get inspired by each other and stuff like that. Guys, we're almost 3 hours into the stream. Whatever you want me to react to in the future, send it in the comments later on, or send it to me via Discord. I'll take a look, but I do need to just take a breather afterwards. Hopefully you're still happy. You got like an almost 3 hour stream. I had hoped to make it even longer, but for that I started a tiny bit too late. I'll be back maybe by around Wednesday. I'm pretty busy starting now, so I at least am happy that I was able to give you the earliest content, but because of some personal stuff that came out, some positive personal stuff, I'm not complaining. I had some spontaneous friend meetings and whatever of people who I've either not seen for a long time or I've only known through the internet, so I had to invest my time in that. So I apologize for that, but I'm also not apologizing for that, if you understand what I mean. So you're getting some big mark action at the end, maybe for Riley if you watch just the video afterwards. Thank you so much. It has been tremendously fun, specifically because of you guys, whether it's right here on YouTube or again on Discord. Whenever you catch me live, please consider supporting the chat with super chat or super sticker. Consider supporting me in the long run. With channel memberships here on YouTube or Patreon subscriptions. Whatever you do, it helps tremendously. Just watching these videos, of course, liking, sharing, commenting, that helps tremendously. So I'm gonna catch you guys later. In the meantime, let me know what else you find interesting. Of course, I will keep giving you like follow-up content on like how well my iPhone is performing, just from like the current things that I'm feeling. There are no problems here with camera control. Again, I still would love camera control to just be a regular elevated button that just basically perfectly mirrors the power button. But if Apple insists, at least for another year or two, to keep the swiping and everything mechanism, I think that this case does it about as well as possible. I would like it to be overall larger. That way that swiping and everything would definitely be better. But I'm not sure if they're using the exact same camera control hardware potentially on the iPhone Air, which is obviously a lot thinner and cannot have quite as large buttons. But that's about it for today's show. Thank you so much. Again, do all the YouTube jazz if you feel like it. And I'll catch you guys next time. This is Mark Tech, tuning out.